Chapter 91. Inside the Taiji Palace. After Li Er finished explaining to Yen Lide, he looked at Li Zixuan with mixed feelings. He had originally planned to transfer Li Zixuan into the army and nurture him. He never expected Li Zixuan to be so talented in machinery. Could it be that priest spirit void taught him all this? The roller bearings were indeed very useful. Li Er also planned to reward Li Zixuan with some gold and silver as a reward. However, the significance of the curved plow was too great. It was not an exaggeration to say that its merits were in the present and its benefits were in the future. In a feudal society, the rulers attached great importance to agriculture. If he only rewarded some gold and silver for this merit, it would seem that Li Er was stingy. Li Er pondered for a moment and said to Li Zixuan, "I heard from Jijia that you learned martial arts from Spirit Void when you were a child. Recently, you even created a strange object like the roller bearings. This is one merit. Today, you presented the technique of making the curved plow so that countless farmers would not miss out on the spring plowing. Your merits are in the country and its benefits are in the future. I am very grateful. This is the second merit. In the imperial court, rewarding merits and punishing faults, making the best use of people's talents. This is the right that the heavens have bestowed upon me. It is also my life's ambition. Li Zixuan, tell me, what do you want? I will satisfy you." Damn, as long as one's IQ is not lacking, they would be able to tell that there was a trap in Li Er's words. If you really want to reward me, why don't you just say it out loud? Why do you need me to say it myself? If I say too much, you'll definitely be unhappy. If I say too little, won't I suffer a huge loss? Li Zixuan thought for a moment and simply pushed the question to Li Er. Your Majesty, my livelihood is in the Tang Empire. I have already deeply fallen in love with this land. These small contributions are what I should do. I really do not dare to covet your Majesty's reward." When Cheng Yaojin heard this, he anxiously glared at Li Zixuan from the side. He secretly cursed that his brain was rusty. He actually did not want to reward such a good opportunity. Li Er frowned and said, "How can I not reward a merit? If this were to spread out, how would the commoners view me? How about this? Li Zixuan, are you willing to work under Minister Yin at the Ministry of Works?" Yin Lide's eyes lit up. He also had the same idea. With Li Zixuan's talent, it would be a pity if he didn't join the Ministry of Works. Li Zixuan immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. He didn't want to enter the imperial court and fight for power. Looking at the fate of Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Duru Hui, Wei Zheng, and the others who fought bravely in Zhengguan's court, according to the records of later generations, these people committed suicide, had their properties confiscated, their families exterminated, and their corpses whipped. These people were all godlike figures, and they couldn't avoid a tragic end. As a newbie in the bureaucracy, it was better for him to shrink his head and be an honest tortoise. Making a fortune in silence was the right thing to do. It would be best if he could get a position with a high rank, less responsibility, and no management. If he went to the Ministry of Works, not only would he suffer, but if he offended someone, he would probably fall into a trap. He was very envious of Cheng Yaojin's unscrupulous personality. He often made a scene in the imperial court, making everyone think that he was a simple-minded boor. As long as they didn't provoke him, he would be harmless to them. Therefore, he was able to be a free and unfettered duke during Zhengguan's reign. This was why he was so awesome. Great wisdom disguised as stupidity. He never showed his talents, but he lived for 100 years. After his death, he was conferred the title of longevity, Lu Wang. He lived a rich life and survived 4 emperors. He could be said to be a weirdo in the bureaucracy. Li Zixuan saw Li Er's glare and quickly considered his words before explaining, "Your Majesty, I'm used to being lazy. I'm afraid that going to the Ministry of Works will delay Minister Yan's matters. Moreover, I've been away from home for 8 years and finally returned home. I want to be filial to my parents. Your Majesty, please grant my wish." Well, the banner of filial piety was brought out. What else could Li Er say? Even if he was the emperor, he didn't dare to openly disobey filial piety. Li Er pondered for a while and said, "If that's the case, then forget it. However, you have contributed to the country and can't not be rewarded. How about this? I'll confer you the title of Lantian County Baron and give you 200 households. How about that? Lier had spent a lot of money. Everyone in the imperial court was shocked. The imperial court's nobility was divided into 5 ranks: Duke, Marquis, Count, Viscount, and Baron. Lisa Schwan was conferred the title of Baron this time. It was a leap from a commoner to a lord. Under the general trend of the country, the conferment of nobility was extremely cautious. The entire imperial court was thinking about how to reduce the number of nobles and reduce the rank of nobility. Lisa Schwan was actually conferred the title of Baron with a mere curved plow. Cheng Yaojin hurriedly gave Lisa Schwan a look, telling him to quickly agree. He was really afraid that Lisa Schwan would be stupid and refuse again. Lisa Schwan didn't pay attention to Cheng Yaojin's message. However, when he heard Lier's words, he was overjoyed. He thought to himself that he had leaped from a commoner to a noble. There was no reason for him to refuse. He hurriedly bowed and thanked the emperor. "I thank your majesty for your kindness." Lier nodded with satisfaction and said, "If there's nothing else, the imperial court is dismissed." All the ministers bowed and saluted. "We respectfully send your majesty off." Haha, this old man really didn't misjudge you. You're promising. As soon as they left Taiji Palace, Cheng Yaojin excitedly patted Li Zixuan's shoulder and laughed. After that, he looked at Qin Shubao and smiled proudly. "How is it, Brother Qin? I told you before that this kid isn't a fish in a pond, right?" Old Cheng, have a good eye for people." Qin Shubao laughed and shook his head. He looked at Li Zixuan and said, "This old man heard from Jijia that your master is spiritual masterling Su. Your martial arts are excellent and not below Jijia. However, I didn't expect you to be able to make such a thing that benefits the country and the people. His Majesty has granted you the title of Baron. Since you are greatly indebted to the country, you should serve the country well in the future. However, this old man has no chance to meet such an immortal like your master. It is a great regret in my life." When Li Zixuan heard Cheng Yaojin call the person in front of him as Brother Qin, he had already guessed the identity of this person. At this time, when he heard Qin Xiong instructing him in the tone of an elder, Li Zixuan knew that he was treating him as a nephew for the sake of Cheng Yaojin. He was moved and bowed respectfully to Qin Xiong. "This must be great General Qin. In the past, when I was in the mountains, I often heard my master say that General Qin seized 3 passes in the day and 8 strongholds at night. Your martial arts are rare in the world, and you are the first pillar of our Tang Empire. I will remember General Qin's teachings and will not forget His Majesty's kindness." Qin Shu Bao was somewhat delighted. "I didn't expect your master to know this old man. Haha, this old man will call you Xiao Xian for the time being. Since Jijia regards you as his nephew, you should also call this old man uncle to avoid estrangement." Li Zixuan hurriedly went along with it and called out to Uncle Qin. Cheng Yaojin looked at Qin Xiong's sallow face and sighed. "Alas, little Xian, it would be good if your master was still here. In the past, everyone in Jianghu knew that spiritual master Ling Su not only had great achievements, but also had great medical skills. He was not below Dr. Sunday. If he was still here, he might be able to cure Brother Qin's illness." When Li Zixuan heard this, he also looked at the unparalleled hero in front of him. Now, he was stooping and coughing from time to time, thinking that according to the track of history, this old man probably only had less than 10 years to live. He was really a hero past his prime. For a moment, Li Zixuan's eyes were also a little wet. Qin Xiong waved his hand magnanimously and said with a faint smile, "Jijia, you are thinking too much. Life and death are predestined. Riches and honor are in heaven. I have been in the military all my life and killed countless people. Perhaps this is the retribution that I, Qin Xiong, should suffer." Chapter 92. In front of the stairs outside the Taiji Palace. Hearing Qin Shubao's words, Cheng Yaojin's eyes instantly turned red. "How can you say that? If there is really retribution, then I have killed as many people as you. The one who deserves to die the most is me." Qin Xiong scolded, "Jijia, you are already so old. Why are you still acting like a child? Don't let the younger generation see you as a joke. I really don't care about it. If I can see the Tang Empire in peace and the people living and working in peace in my lifetime, I will be satisfied. Lisa Xuan said at this time, Uncle Qin, why don't you ask Dr. Sun to take a look? My master also praised Dr. Sun's medical skills when he was alive. I think Uncle Qin just has a lot of internal injuries. Dr. Sun should treat you a little. Cheng Yaojin's eyes lit up and he cried, By the way, His Majesty told me before that he would send Dr. Sun to the Qin mansion to take a look at my second brother these days. Second brother? You can't go out these days. Qin Xiong nodded with a smile. Lisa Xuan thought for a moment and said, If Dr. Sun goes to the Qin mansion, please send someone to tell me. I was lucky to be saved by Dr. Sun in the Zhongnan Mountains. I haven't thanked him in person. Lisa Xuan thought that he could ask Sun Simiao to take a look at Hu Jing and his brother. Qin Xiong nodded. At this time, Cheng Yaojin pulled Lisa Xuan and said, Come, little Xian, this old man will introduce you to the elders. These are all good brothers who have gone through life and death with this old man. You should pay your respects. Lisa Xuan hurriedly said yes and followed Cheng Yaojin's footsteps to the people walking in front. Old Fu Yuqi, Niu Sanlang, you two wait. Cheng Yaojin shouted at the top of his voice from a distance. The two big men in front immediately stopped, turned around, and glared at Cheng Yaojin. Madman Cheng, in the next competition, I must beat your stinky mouth crooked. You don't pay attention to the demeanor of an elder in front of the younger generation and talk nonsense. One of the ugly towering men said to Cheng Yaojin unhappily. Cheng Yaojin chuckled. Wait till you can beat me, old Cheng. Little Xian, come here. Let me introduce you to two elders. This is your uncle Yuqi. His kung fu is only a little bit worse than this old man's, but it's not bad. Lisa Xuan ignored the shameless Cheng Yaojin at the side and hurriedly bowed respectfully to one of the later generation's door gods, Yuqi Jingda, and said, Greetings to Uncle Yuqi. This young one, Lisa Xuan, pays respects to you. After Yuqi Jingda glared at Cheng Yaojin, he hurriedly helped Lisa Xuan up and laughed. Good. You're quite handsome. But for us men, it's useless to be handsome. You have to be able to pick up a sword and go on the battlefield. Previously, Madman Cheng said that you were actually able to fight him to a draw. You should spar with this old man some other day. Let's see if you were as powerful as Madman Cheng said. Lisa Xuan almost vomited blood. Was Yuqi Jingda saying that he looked like a pretty boy? But compared to Yuqi Jingda, this tower-like man, his appearance was indeed a bit fair. Cheng Yaojin said sarcastically, If everyone looked like a charcoal ball like you, whose family's daughter would dare to marry, other than your two sisters-in-law, black and white, who blindly took a fancy to you, wouldn't other girls jump into a well if they saw your king of hell appearance? Yuqi Jingda was furious, cursing people but not exposing their shortcomings. Cheng Yaojin's words were too *king wicked. Madman Cheng, you old thing, your mouth doesn't speak human language. Come and fight 300 rounds with this old man. As he spoke, he was about to go up and fight. On the side, Niu Jinda hurriedly pulled him back. The younger generation is still here. What's with the two of you messing around like this? At this time, Cheng Yaojin chuckled and pulled Lisa Xuan over. Pointing at the dark-skinned, muscular man who was pulling Yuqi Jingda, he introduced, This is your Uncle Niu. In the past, we went through fire and water together many times. His battle formation skills are quite exceptional. You kid must follow him and learn well. Of course, Lisa Xuan had heard of Niu Jinda's great name. This was one of the few fierce generals of the Great Tang. Lisa Xuan respectfully bowed and said, Greetings, Uncle Niu. Niu Jinda was obviously more composed than Cheng Yaojin and Yuqi Jingda. He twirled his beard and smiled. Good kid. No need to be so polite. You are truly a young talent. You were able to invent the curved plow, so you could be considered the great benefactor of all the farmers in the world. Old Niu, was also a farmer in the past. I know the severity of missing the spring plowing. With your curved plow, who knows how many fewer people will starve to death. Lisa Xuan hurriedly said modestly, Uncle Niu, you flatter me. I was just fooling around. Cheng Yaojin came over and said, "Little Xian, you said before that you raised chickens to supply your restaurant with new dishes. Is that true?" Li Zixuan nodded and said, "That's true." Cheng Yaojin slapped his thigh and shouted, "Then this time my family raised 30,000 chickens with you. When the time comes, you'll have to take them all. I, old Cheng, have really invested a lot this time." Li Zixuan widened his eyes. He did not expect Cheng Yaojin to trust him so much that he directly wanted to raise 30,000 chickens. This was such a big gamble. But this was also good. When the time came, the Cheng family's farm would not have to fear the plague of locusts. Thinking of this, Li Zixuan smiled meaningfully and said, "Uncle Cheng, when the time comes, you may find that the most precious part of your chickens is not the meat. You may not be willing to sell your chickens." "What do you mean?" Cheng Yaojin was confused. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. Uncle Cheng will naturally know when the time comes. Li Zixuan said with a smile. Yu Qijingde could not help but scold Cheng Yaojin. "You shameless old man, you actually want to take advantage of the younger generation. You've really lived like a dog all these years. Little Xian, you don't need to pay attention to him. This old man is actually very interested in the 128 new dishes that your drunken immortal restaurant will release next year. When the time comes, you have to let this old man taste them in advance. Yes, this old bull is also interested in these new dishes. The chicken that your drunken immortal restaurant released before is really the most delicious thing this old bull has ever eaten. When a new dishes come out, you have to send some to this old man to taste in advance." Li Zixuan hurriedly nodded and agreed. "Two uncles, don't worry. When the time comes, I will definitely send some to your residences. And this old man, you can't forget the old when you have a new person." Cheng Yaojin immediately jumped out and added. Qin Xiong, who had just rushed over, was speechless. "Jijia, how come you don't know how to pay attention to the demeanor of an elder at all? Inside the imperial palace. Your Majesty, I heard that you conferred Li Zixuan the title of Baron today?" Empress Zhang's son asked curiously as she fed Lier, who was lying on her lap, a piece of apple that she had cut. Lier smiled gently and said, "What? Does Guanin's servant think that my reward is inappropriate?" Zhang's son hurriedly said, "I wouldn't dare. I was just asking casually." Lier sighed. "Perhaps many people think that my reward is a bit too heavy. Haha, but how many people in the world know Li Zixuan's true value? This kid is far from being as simple as you think. We even suspect that what he said in court today about the reason he raised so many chickens was not the truth. After court was dismissed, I thought about it carefully and felt that there was something else going on. There seems to be something that doesn't make sense." It had to be said that Li Er's eyes were very sharp. He was almost close to the correct answer. Zhang's son didn't understand and asked, "I heard Chang Xian say before that Li Zixuan invented the gnawing chicken and wrote Journey to the West. Now, this book has spread throughout the palace. However, this child is only 14 years old. Is he really worth a baron?" Lier stood up and frowned with his hands behind his back. Actually, Li Zixuan's identity as spiritual master Ling Su's disciple is also worth a baron. Guanin's servant, you might not know what kind of immortal spiritual master Ling Su is. His disciple definitely won't be bad. I originally planned to send Li Zixuan to the army to gain experience, but today I found that this kid is very lazy. He has a lot of ability, but he would rather stay at home and wait for death. I might as well give him a baron first and drag him into court first. I will give him a good beating in the future. Jade can't be made into anything without being polished. I don't believe that this kid is so useless that he can't be helped up." Chapter 93. After bidding farewell to Cheng Yaojin and the other old generals, it was already past noon. The morning court session had been going on for so long, but Li Zixuan didn't provide any food. He really wasn't a good boss. Li Zixuan could only go home hungry. "Xian, are you all right? Why did His Majesty look for you? He didn't give you any trouble, did he?" As soon as he entered the door, Madame Li ran over and hugged Li Zixuan. Her two eyes constantly looked at Li Zixuan's body to see if her son was missing any parts. Li Jingma also stood not far away and looked over with concern. It was obvious that the husband and wife had been waiting in the courtyard for him to come back. They probably hadn't even eaten lunch yet. Brother, are you all right? When Lana heard the commotion in the courtyard, she ran out with her little legs. Behind her was a worried Tai Dan. Lisa Schwan looked at the worried faces of his family members and couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. Although he hadn't been in this world for long, he had received too much love and care from this small family. Mother, I'm fine. His Majesty didn't make things difficult for me. Let's go in and eat lunch. I haven't eaten yet. Front hall. Lisa Schwan briefly told the two elders about what happened in the morning court session as he ate. Of course, he didn't mention the matter of Yuan Wendao and Wei Zheng impeaching him. Since it was already in the past, there was no need to mention it and make everyone worry. Even so, the few people in the family were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Xian you're saying that His Majesty made you a baron? Madame Li excitedly pulled Li Zixuan's arm and asked in disbelief. Li Jingma was also a little short of breath. He had been in business for many years and knew how lowly a merchant's position was. If what his son said was true, then who would dare to look down on him, Li Jingma? Li Zixuan's mouth was still stuffed. Seeing his mother constantly urging him, he hurriedly said, "It's true, mother. The imperial edict will probably be sent over in the afternoon. It's just that Lantian County is so big. I wonder where my fief will be. Who cares where he is? You brat, don't take it for granted. This title is the most important. Our family doesn't lack land. Hurry up and eat. You still have to receive the imperial edict in the afternoon." Li Jima grumbled from the side. In fact, he was more excited than anyone else. His son had gone from commoner to a baron. When the time came, the entire Li family would rise along with him. They would not be far from becoming a wealthy family. It was just that he couldn't bear to see Li Zixuan act like he was the victim of bargain, so he couldn't help but say a few words. "Dad, aren't you going to the shop in the afternoon?" Li Zixuan asked curiously. In the past, at this time, Dadley would usually be busy with his business. Li Jingma glared at him and said, "Why do you still care about business at a time like this? Do you think your father is as clueless as you?" Li Zixuan rubbed his nose awkwardly. "Wow, then Lan will be the Baron's sister in the future. Does that mean she's also a high-ranking official?" Lanner cheered at this time. Madame Li couldn't help but laugh and said, Yes. Our Lan will also be a high-ranking official in the future. Iron Egg congratulates Master on receiving the title of Baron. Iron Egg at the side also very sensibly bowed and congratulated him. Li Zixuan smiled and nodded. He asked casually, "Iron Egg, have you been slacking off these few days? How many words have you learned?" Lanner rushed to say, "Brother, with Lanner here, Brother Iron Egg doesn't dare to slack off. Lanner has already taught Iron Egg more than 100 words these few days." Li Zixuan praised, "Not bad. In a few days, I'll invite a teacher back. Lanner, you should also learn some scriptures from Iron Egg. I don't expect you to become a scholar through scriptures, but I hope you can understand some principles of life from them." Why does Lanner have to learn too? Lanner pouted her small mouth and said unwillingly. Li Jingma and his wife watched the siblings bicker and didn't interrupt. Since Li Zixuan returned, Lanner didn't need to worry about them anymore. After the meal, Li Zixuan was urged by his mother to go back to the west courtyard to take a bath. She said that to receive the imperial edict, one had to take a bath and change clothes in advance to show respect to the emperor. Li Zixuan snorted at this, but there was nothing he could do. This era's deep-rooted ideology of imperial power was supreme, and no one could change it. After taking a bath, Li Zixuan saw his mother's head maid, Qing trot over and say, young master, young master, young master, young master, master and madam want you to hurry to the front yard." "Has the angel arrived?" Li Zixuan said in surprise. "So fast? Then let's go quickly." When Li Zixuan arrived at the front courtyard, he saw that the incense table had been set up. Li Jingma was chatting with a middle-aged man with a pale face and no beard. When he saw Li Zixuan, he quickly waved for him to come over. "Xian quickly come and say hello to Chamberlain Liu." Li Zixuan walked over and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Chamberlain Liu. You've worked hard to come here to announce the imperial edict." The eunuch smiled and returned the greeting. He said in a sharp voice, "This must be young Master Li. You're really young and talented. To be recognized by the emperor at such a young age. You have a bright future ahead of you. Young Master Li, you should hurry and receive the imperial edict." When he finished speaking, the eunuch stood facing the south with his back facing the north. Li Zishuan, Li Jingma, and the others also cupped their hands at the side. Chamberlain Lu coughed softly. The emperor of the Tang Dynasty has decreed that there is a good son named Li Zishuan. Since he was young, he has been adhering to the virtues of good. He created roller bearings, created the divine plow. The eunuch recited the edict for the time it took to drink a cup of tea. Other than the beginning, Li Zishuan didn't understand what the ancient text was saying. He finally heard the words roller bearings and divine plow, which should be praising his achievements. Then, he heard the words male of Lantian County. This is my title, but where is my fief? Didn't they say that there were 200 households in the fief? There should be 2,000 or 3,000 mu of land, right? Why didn't he hear anything? When Chamberlain Lu finished reciting, Li Jingma pressed Li Zishuan to the ground and kowtowed 3 times and 9 times. The eunuch smiled and said, "Congratulations, Lord Ju. You have been conferred the title of male at the age of 14. The day you become a marquis is just around the corner." When he finished speaking, his eyes were fixed on Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan's hair stood on end under the eunuch's gaze. He didn't know what was going on, but Li Jingma knew better. He quickly had someone bring over a tray with a dozen golden pancakes. Li Zishuan was speechless. He secretly praised his father for being so generous. At the same time, he also understood that the eunuch was trying to get money. He was still too inexperienced. Luckily, he had his father by his side to take care of him. It was true that having an old man at home was like having a treasure. Li Jingma handed the tray to Chamberlain Lu. He smiled and said, "Both of us are extremely grateful to have Chamberlain Lu deliver the edict. Now that we have received such good news, how can we let Chamberlain Lu return empty-handed? This is a small token of our appreciation. I hope Chamberlain Lu doesn't mind." Chamberlain Lu smiled and took the tray. He bowed to Li Zishuan and said, "Thank you, Lord Ju, for your reward." Li Zishuan nodded. This Tang Dynasty eunuch wasn't bad. However, he was most concerned about where his fief was. Chapter 94. After the eunuch left, the Li residence became a sea of joy. Li Jingma and his wife held the imperial edict and flipped it over and over. From time to time, they would whisper and laugh. Their joy was evident in their words. Li Zishuan estimated that if there was an ant on top of the imperial edict, Li Jingma would be able to catch it. "Father, have you seen enough?" His parents had been looking at it for almost an hour. Li Zishuan couldn't take it anymore. "What? Your mother and I raised you. Now that you've finally made a name for yourself, why can't you look at it more?" Father Li was unusually happy today. It was rare that he didn't scold Li Zishuan. When Li Zishuan said that he was going to be knighted, Father Li was excited. However, he was still worried that something might happen. Now that the imperial edict was in his hands, Father Li's heart was finally at ease. He could laugh out loud. No, Father, Mother, you can look as long as you want. I just want to ask, where's my fief?" Li Zishuan scratched his head awkwardly. Who told him to not study Chinese? He didn't understand the imperial edict just now. He was at a disadvantage because of his lack of knowledge. Father Li glared at Li Zishuan. "Ignorant and incompetent. You can't even understand the imperial edict. Didn't Lu just tell you the location of your fief? You also said that you wanted to find a teacher for Lan Er. I think you need a teacher to teach you." Li Zishuan was very embarrassed. Madame Li covered her mouth and laughed. "Xian why are you so concerned about your fief? Coincidentally, according to His Majesty's edict, your fief is about 2,000 mu of fertile farmland in Plum Village in Lantian County. It's not far from the Han family village." Ignoring his father's scolding, Li Zishuan heard his mother's words. He opened his mouth in shock and asked, "Plum Village's farmland? Didn't Lu Shuren buy it?" Li Jingma snorted. "He spent money to buy it, but that doesn't mean it's his. If the imperial court wants to take it back, would he dare to not hand it over? However, The imperial court will also give him some compensation. Li Zishuan also knew that Lan Er had been bullied in the Han family manor. If it wasn't for the fact that Li Zishuan had already punished Lu Haojin severely, Li Jingma would have gotten someone to do it himself. Li Zishuan nodded in understanding and asked, "Father, then if the imperial court wants to take away our Han family manor's land in the future, will it be like Lu Shuren now?" Li Jingma nodded. "In theory, that's true. However, Xian already a baron. As long as you don't commit any crimes, the imperial court shouldn't casually take away the Han manor's land. As far as I know, all the civil and military officials in the court basically spend money to buy some land in other places other than their own fiefs. His Majesty usually doesn't take away their land. So that's how it is. In that case, I'll be in charge of 2 farmsteads in the future. That's more than 5,000 mu of land. I'll have to link the 2 farmsteads together and build a new feudal village." Haha, Li Zishuan thought happily. In a private room on the top floor of a Yunshi restaurant, a young master was holding a wine cup and sipping wine while looking down at the pedestrians on the street. A soft sound came from the door. Then, a middle-aged scholar in black carefully walked in and respectfully said to the young master, "Second young master, Without waiting for him to finish, the young master didn't even turn his head. A cold aura suddenly filled the room. Even though the middle-aged scholar couldn't see the young master's expression, he knew that he had said something wrong. He quickly slapped himself and corrected himself. "Young master," the young master then asked, "how did it go? Did Yuan Wendao's impeachment succeed?" The middle-aged man in black didn't dare to raise his head and whispered, "Young master, Yuan Wendao's impeachment failed. Li Zishuan was instead made a baron by His Majesty." What a piece of trash. The young master slammed the table and snorted angrily. "Please forgive me, young master." The man in black immediately kept quiet out of fear and quickly knelt down to beg for mercy. After a while, the young master picked up his wine cup and took a sip of wine. He said lightly, "Tell me what happened." The black-clothed man then reported in full detail how Li Zishuan had rebutted Yuan Wendao and Wei Zheng's impeachment during the morning court assembly. After listening to the story, the young master closed his eyes and meditated for a long time before muttering to himself, "Oh, I didn't expect that Li Zishuan not only escaped this disaster, but also benefited from it. It's like this kid was sent by the heavens to go against me. Half a month ago, when I was sent to take over Yunshi restaurant, that kid pushed out the chicken he ate at Drunken Immortal restaurant. At first, I thought he was just an ant and could easily kill him. I didn't expect that he would soon become friends with Cheng Chumo and the Crown Prince. The ant turned into a grasshopper and had the strength to fight. And now, he was unexpectedly made a baron. This grasshopper turned into a tiger and had its own teeth. Things are getting more and more interesting. Ha ha." The middle-aged man in black was ashamed. "It's my fault. Please punish me, young master. Is there any use in punishing you? This young master will remember this matter. If you fail again, don't come back to see me." The middle-aged man in black hurriedly said, "Don't worry, young master. There won't be a next time." The young master nodded and asked, "Is Wang Eru still unwilling to come to Yunshi restaurant?" Reporting to young master, this subordinate offered twice the monthly salary of Drunken Immortal restaurant, but Wang Eru is still unwilling to come. "Young master, this person doesn't know how to appreciate favors. Should this subordinate send someone to teach him a lesson?" The young master shook his head. "Times are different now. Now that Li Zishuan has been made a baron, if we go overboard, it'll be easy to expose ourselves. Besides, even if we get Wang Eru to our Yunshi restaurant, Li Zishuan can still train a second Wang Eru. To me, Yunshi restaurant's business doesn't matter, but this young master isn't willing to lose to that person." The middle-aged man in black didn't dare to reply. The room fell into silence. After a short moment, the young master spoke and asked, "How many customers have we robbed from the Drunken Immortal restaurant?" The middle-aged man pondered for a few breaths of time and answered, "About 30 to 40%, but I heard that the Drunken Immortal restaurant has started to lower their prices. Then we'll lower our prices as well." That's right. Did Li Zixuan explain why he bought so many chicken seedlings during the morning court assembly? The young master suddenly thought of something and asked. Reporting to young master, Li Zixuan said that he's raising so many chickens for the farmers to subsidize their expenses. Secondly, it's for the 128 chicken banquet that his Drunken Immortal restaurant is going to launch next year. It said that their new dish requires free-range chickens. Oomph. Do you believe that? The young master thought for a moment and snorted disdainfully. Young master, this lowly one feels that Li Zixuan's words are quite reasonable. The middle-aged man scratched his head and spoke in bewilderment. You're a pig's head. Although I can't guess his true objective, I'm sure it's not just for this. Moreover, I don't think the emperor will believe it. Also, what's that good big brother of mine doing recently? The young master first mocked the middle-aged man and then suddenly asked. He deliberately emphasized the words, good big brother. Reporting to young master, the eldest young master hasn't made any moves recently. However, the eldest young master spent 500 strings of coins at the Strange Taste Pavilion yesterday to apply for a Red Supreme membership card. This lowly one doesn't know what the eldest young master's intentions are. The middle-aged man replied respectfully. Oomph, this good big brother of mine is probably interested in my sworn enemy, isn't he? The young master snorted coldly, and the room fell into silence again. Chapter 95. From tomorrow onwards, he would be a happy person. He would feed the horses, chop firewood, and travel around the world. From tomorrow onwards, he would care about food and vegetables. He would have a house that faced the sea. He would have a house, land, and a title. He would finally have a place to settle down in the Tang Dynasty. Thinking about this, Li Zixuan felt extremely relaxed. He lay on the bed and did not want to get up. He even wanted to spend the rest of his life eating and waiting for death. After all, he would not be able to use up all the money at home. That's right, Li Zixuan had no ambition and was content with his wealth. What was the point of earning so much money? He was not going to raise a flag or gather people to rebel. The money at home was enough for him to use for a few lifetimes. Young master, it should be Lord Ju. It's time to get up. Xiaoxi entered the room and said with a face full of smiles. It was just that she was not used to being called Lord Ju. The little girl realized that she had said something wrong and was a little flustered. However, the joy in her eyes could not be hidden. Li Zixuan teased. Xiaoxi, what's the occasion today? Why are you so happy? No, nothing. Xiaoxi was a little flustered as she gathered the hair in front of her forehead. Hey, if you don't say it, I won't get up today. Originally, it was just a casual question. However, looking at the little girl's expression, it was obvious that something was wrong. Li Zixuan acted shamelessly. Young. Lord Ju, how can you be like this? Xiaoxi had a new understanding of her young master's shamelessness. Li Zixuan was speechless at the little girl's exaggerated reaction. He was just teasing her and did not act like a hooligan. If you're not used to being called Lord Ju, then continue to call me young master. I feel uncomfortable hearing it. Xiaoxi, tell me quickly, what good thing did you encounter? Did you pick up some money? Xiaoxi hesitated for a moment before saying embarrassedly, Madam said this morning that all the servants in the residence will have their allowance double for the next 3 months to celebrate young master's conferment. Xiaoxi, you really picked up some money. Half of your extra allowance is due to me. Xiaoxi, you have to thank me. Xiaoxi also felt that the young master's analysis made sense, but she couldn't think of how to thank him. She said awkwardly, Young master, you don't lack anything. Xiaoxi can't think of how to thank you. Hearing this, Li Zixuan said sneakily, Who said that I, your young master, don't lack anything? I've lacked calcium since I was young, and I've lacked love when I grew up. After he finished speaking, he stared at the little girl's small chest with some bad intentions. TSK, it was really quite big, Young master, you rogue. Xiaoxi could feel Li Zixuan's perverted gaze. She screamed and ran away while covering her face. Sigh, this little girl really can't handle teasing. Li Zixuan shook his head helplessly. He could only get up and put on his clothes. Shopkeeper Liu is here today. Li Zixuan went to the front hall and was about to eat breakfast when he saw shopkeeper Lu talking to old man Li. Greetings to Lord Ju. Congratulations to Lord Ju for your bright future. Shopkeeper Lu didn't dare to be as casual as before. When he saw Li Zishuan enter, he quickly stood up and respectfully bowed to Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan's current status was different from before. He couldn't be disrespectful. Uncle Lu, in any case, we've worked together before. Why are you acting so distant now? Uncle Lu, you should just call me young master or little Xian. There's no need to be reserved. My father and I remember the contributions you've made to the Drunken Immortal Inn. Li Zishuan could clearly feel that shopkeeper Lu's attitude wasn't right today. However, he understood after thinking about it. He wasn't someone who liked to put on airs. Although he had a noble title now, to him, this title was just a coat to protect himself and his family. It wasn't a tool to put on airs. When shopkeeper Lu saw that Li Zishuan's attitude towards him was still as cordial as before, he was very touched. One had to know how lowly merchants were in this society. Which noble would be willing to treat them as equals? Young master, I'm indebted to you for thinking so highly of this old man Lu. In the future, this old man Lu will definitely take care of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Shopkeeper Lu's eyes became moist as he spoke. Li Jingma smiled and comforted him. Shopkeeper Lu, sit down and talk. Although my Xian, is now a baron, our Li family is still the same Li family. Xian, and I won't forget an old man like you who has contributed greatly to the Li family. Shopkeeper Lu cupped his hands and said, Old master is benevolent and righteous. Li Zishuan sat to the side and picked up the millet porridge his mother had prepared for him. Along with the pickled vegetables, he slurped down the porridge. As he ate, he asked, Uncle Lu, why did you come here today? Old man Li glared at Li Zishuan when he saw his rude eating manners. Shopkeeper Lu didn't mind at all. In his view, Li Zishuan didn't treat him as an outsider. Old man Lu was very pleased. When he heard Li Zishuan's question, shopkeeper Lu hurriedly replied, Young master, old man Lu is here today to discuss the Drunken Immortal restaurant with old master. Oh, so what if it's the Drunken Immortal restaurant? Didn't I ask Uncle Lu to lower the price before? Li Zishuan curiously asked. Young master, we did lower the price of the chicken we ate as per your instructions. We also recovered 20% of the customers we lost. But today, the Yunshi restaurant lowered the price again. Their chicken is now only 450 copper coins per serving. Shopkeeper Lu said with a bitter expression. Li Zishuan frowned and muttered, They want to fight until the end. They want us to fight to the end. We can't lower the price of this chicken any further. There's no need to fight a price war with them anymore. Father, do you know who the owner of the Yunshi restaurant is? Li Jingma thought for a moment and said, I don't know who their owner is. I've never heard of their owner, but I do know their shopkeeper. His name is Xiaoying, and he's a nobody. He only became the shopkeeper of Yunshi Pavilion 2 years ago. However, the Yunshi restaurant seems to have some backing. In the past, there were quite a few local ruffians who made a scene there and drank and reneged on their debts. Li Zishuan's frown deepened. After pondering for a moment, he said, Seems like the Yunshi restaurant has some backing. Looks like this Yunshi Pavilion has quite the background. Uncle Lu, don't bother about them for now. Just run your business as usual. I still have some matters to attend to. Once I'm free, I'll teach Wang Eru a few new dishes. While I'm at it, I'll also bring the Drunken Immortal restaurant a divine wine that no one has ever tasted before. Old man Li glanced at his son suspiciously. Shopkeeper Lu, on the other hand, was abnormally excited. Since young master wants to take action, then this old man Lu is completely at ease. Oh, right, there's one more thing. Wang Eru previously told me that the Yunshi restaurant wanted to poach him with a higher price, but Wang Eru didn't agree. Li Zishuan was angered to the point of laughing. The Yunshi restaurant is really pushing us hard. They're unscrupulous. Uncle Lu, Eru is a good seedling. Don't mistreat him. Tell him to follow this young master and work hard. Don't think about anything else. I can give him anything that others can give him. I can even teach him to make many new dishes that others can't make. Let him weigh the pros and cons. Shopkeeper Lu hurriedly nodded and said, Yes, young master. Don't worry. I, Old Man Lu, feel that Eru is quite reliable. Then, young master, old master, I'll go back first. Li Zixuan nodded. Chapter 96. Li Estate's Front Hall. Xian, it's fine if Drunken Immortal's business isn't good, but why do you care so much? Our family doesn't lack money. You're already a baron, so how can you work in the kitchen? After manager Lu left, Li Jingma looked at his son who was slurping down his breakfast and couldn't help but ask. He couldn't understand his son's actions. In his eyes, although Drunken Immortal's business was good, it wasn't as noble as his status as a baron. His son was a baron, yet he wanted to work in the kitchen. Old Man Li felt that it was beneath his status. Li Zixuan swallowed his food and smiled. Oh, father, you're looking down on cooks? Li Jingma shook his head. That's not it. When I was young, I was a peddler. How could I look down on others? I'm just worried that you'll be impeached, saying that you don't care about the dignity of an official. Li Zixuan curled his lips in disdain. Let whoever wants to impeach me. I don't believe that His Majesty will punish me for such a small matter. Besides, those who impeach me, if they have the ability, don't eat anything from our strange taste pavilion for the rest of their lives. Li Jingma helplessly shook his head. He could only follow his son's wishes. After breakfast, Li Zixuan went to the Strange Taste Pavilion's workshop. Inside the workshop, everyone was busy and in full swing. Moreover, there were clearly more craftsmen here compared to the last time Li Zixuan was here. Faubert, how many curved plows can we produce in a day? Li Zixuan had someone find Faubert and asked. Young master, this old man has recruited 52 new craftsmen. Our workshop's production capacity has more than doubled. We can now make 300 curved plows in a day. Faubert's face was glowing. There was no trace of the lethargy of an old man on his body. Instead, one could feel his high fighting spirit. Li Zixuan smiled and nodded. And not bad. Faubert, if you meet skilled craftsmen in the future, feel free to recruit as many as you can. Our family has a lot of money, so you don't have to worry. Currently, Strange Taste Pavilion's products were in short supply. Li Zixuan really wanted to expand the workshop, but he didn't know any craftsmen. He could only ask Faubert to hurry up and recruit more craftsmen. Even someone as indifferent as Uncle Fu's mouth twitched when he heard this. This was the first time he had met such a rich and willful boss. Oh, that's right. Uncle Fu, I handed the blueprint of the curved plow to the Imperial Court yesterday. The Imperial Court will produce it vigorously. This way, the pressure on our workshop will be reduced a lot. You can spare some people to continue producing the scooters. Li Zixuan patted his head. He had almost forgotten about this. Faubert was slightly surprised when he heard this, but he understood and nodded. When he heard about the price of the curved plows, he knew that Li Zixuan didn't plan to make money from them. He was relieved. As for Li Zixuan handing over the design of the curved plows to the Imperial Court, Faubert thought that it was natural. This was because the curved plows could only be popularized with the power of a country. That's good. This old man will spare some people tomorrow to specialize in producing scooters. Faubert, you said that our workshop can already produce roller bearings. Then you should hurry up and use the roller bearings on the scooters and release the second generation of scooters as soon as possible, because our previous scooter would probably be imitated by others in a short period of time. By the way, you can also produce a batch of skateboards without handrails on the basis of the scooter. This is quite suitable for young people to play with. Li Zixuan thought for a while and instructed. Faubert was speechless. Although this boss in front of him was very talented in machinery, why did he always want to have fun? However, he couldn't say anything and could only nod in agreement. Faubert, the workshop has some time recently. Help me build a carriage. The carriage needs to use our workshop's newly developed roller bearings. I also brought the blueprint over today. Li Zixuan excitedly took out the blueprint of a luxurious carriage that he drew last night. This luxurious carriage was based on the Queen of England. Australia spent a lot of money to build a luxurious diamond carriage for the Queen when she attended the opening ceremony of Parliament. In his previous life, this carriage was also known as the Golden Carriage. It was designed by Jim, and 50 of the best craftsmen spent 10 years to build it. Of course, Li Zixuan abandoned the appearance of a nouveau riche. He used a low-key dark red color for the exterior of the carriage. For safety reasons, the carriage was sandwiched with iron plates. The original Golden Horse carriage had 6 hydraulic shock absorbers. With the current industrial standards, it was still impossible to do so. Li Zixuan could only add some springs to the chassis for shock absorbers. Of course, roller bearings were used on the wheel axles. The interior of the carriage had a sofa, a table, a small bathroom, and a water storage room. Although it was small, it had all the essentials. Li Zixuan's idea was beautiful, but Faubert suffered. Faubert had lived for more than half of his life, but he had never seen so many novel things. "Young master, what is this thing?" Faubert pointed at the springs in the blueprint and asked. Li Zixuan took a look and explained, "This is called a spring. It is made by pulling an iron wire loop by loop. A large number of springs can be added to the chassis of the carriage to reduce the vibration of the carriage. Metal springs existed for a long time in the Bronze Age. Strictly speaking, the inventor of springs should be the British scientist Hooke. There were no metal springs left in ancient China, so let's just assume that there were none." With Li Zixuan's explanation, Faubert understood. He smacked his lips and sighed. "Young master, your idea is really ingenious." "Then what is this?" "This is a sofa. In the future, we can also make it as a separate piece of furniture and sell it. The sofa is made of leather wrapped with springs and some soft padding. It is mainly used to reduce the vibration of the carriage. After all, there are many places in Tang that are not easy to travel on. Just relying on the chassis of the carriage to reduce the vibration is not enough." Li Zixuan explained the structure and function of the sofa to Faubert. Faubert opened his eyes wide and looked at Li Zixuan with a strange expression. He was a bit disappointed that his boss did not live up to his expectations. His boss was talented, but he did not use it on the right path. He always thought of ways to enjoy himself. The number of ways he used was amazing. Faubert thought that if the person in front of him was his son, he would definitely give him a good beating. Li Zixuan felt a bit uncomfortable being stared at. He quickly coughed and said, "Ahem, Faubert, can the workshop make this carriage?" Faubert calmed down and thought for a while before answering. "It should be possible, but it will take some time, about 10 days. Li Zixuan said happily, "Then I will have to trouble Faubert. It doesn't matter if it takes a long time. Let the craftsman accumulate some experience in making this kind of carriage. When the speed is up, our Strange Taste Pavilion will also sell this carriage." Faubert could only nod in agreement. What else could he say when he had such a master? Chapter 97. East Market, Strange Interest Pavilion. After Li Zixuan left the workshop, he wanted to go to Strange Interest Pavilion to take a look. When he arrived at the East Market, he could see a long line in front of Strange Interest Pavilion from afar. Everyone in the line was whispering to each other. It was very lively. "Hey, Zhao Lao Air, why are you here today? Why can't I be here? Wu Lao San, I say, you people are too unkind. You didn't even tell us that you had such a good plow. If I hadn't seen that kid Mei Jun plow yesterday, I would still be in the dark." A scar-faced man scolded. "Hey, you can't blame me for this. I also heard from a sister-in-law of the child's mother's cousin's eldest uncle yesterday afternoon. Our Liujia village is so far away from your plum village. I can't possibly go over and inform you. Right? Sai, actually the people from the Hanjia village were the first to know about the curved plow. We all came too late." "That's right. However, this curved plow was invented by their main family's young master. Sai, I heard that their main family's young master was conferred the title of Baron yesterday. No one will dare to bully the Hanjia village in the future. I also heard about this. I just don't know where this lord's fief is. If it's in our plum village, then our plum village's villagers will have good days. I heard that this lord is very good to the villagers of the Hanjia village. Not only did he pay them to help him brew fruit wine, he also provided them with free chicken seedlings to raise and reduce their rent." "Bah, you're dreaming. Why don't you say that the lord's fief is in our Liujia village?" Wu Lao Sen shouted. "Sai, Zhao Lao Air, I heard from my uncle who works in the Yamen that Lord Li's fief is in Plum Village. The Yamen has already sent people to your village's Lujia village to negotiate. They said that they want to take back the land and give it to Lord Li. A young man couldn't help but interrupt. Ah, Han Ergo, are you telling the truth? Zhao Lao Air excitedly grabbed the young man's shoulder and shouted. Ouch, it hurts, it hurts. Second Uncle Zhao, let go of me first. Everything I said is true. It was my uncle who said it himself. The young man grimaced in pain and hurriedly promised. Zhao Air's face turned red. He put down Dog Han's shoulder, turned his head, and laughed at Wu Lao-san. Ah, old third Wu, it's my turn to be lucky this time. I'm going to be Lord Ju's family's farmer in the future. When that time comes, you'll definitely not be as rich as me. Haha, are you envious? Jealous? Are you F***ing going to bite me? His big face that was smiling like a chrysanthemum, coupled with the scar on his face, looked particularly terrifying and mocking. Wu Lao-san shouted angrily. F***ck, Zhao Lao-san, you F***king bastard. You're asking for a beating. Li Zishuan's hearing was very good. He could hear their conversation from afar. He shook his head with a smile and ignored them. He passed through the crowd and entered through the back door of Strange Interest Pavilion. There were very few people from the Han family manor in the crowd today, so no one recognized him. Oh, young master. Ah, no, it's Lord Ju. You're here? Sun Huayan, who was busy at the front desk, heard the servant's report. He quickly put down his work and ran up to the second floor. He greeted Li Zishuan enthusiastically. Li Zishuan nodded slightly and gestured for Sun Huayuan to sit down. Shopkeeper Sun, I'm sure you've heard that I've submitted the blueprint of the curved plow to the Imperial Court. From tomorrow onwards, half of the workshop will continue to manufacture the scooters. Shopkeeper Sun, when the time comes, you can set up another team to sell the scooters. Sun Huayuan was pleasantly surprised. That's great. Don't worry, Lord Ju. I'll arrange it well. Although the curved plow was popular, Strange Interest Pavilion didn't make much money. In comparison, Sun Huayuan was more willing to sell the scooters. This was a good performance. Li Zishuan continued. The workshop should be able to develop the second generation of scooters in the next 2 days. Compared to the first generation, the second generation scooter uses our workshop's exclusive technology. It's more flexible and faster. Shopkeeper Sun, you can have people copy some flyers tomorrow to encourage people to apply for a membership card. Later on, we'll introduce more comprehensive products. Sun Huayuan happily nodded. Yes, Lord Ju. Don't worry. I guarantee that when the time comes, everyone in Chang and will know about our second-generation scooters. Li Zishuan nodded with satisfaction. After chatting with Sun Huayuan for a while, Li Zishuan thought that he had told him everything he needed to tell him. So he left the Strange Interest Pavilion and went home. Duke Lu's mansion. Master, the price of the chicken shoots in Chang and has risen to 115 coins. Should we continue to buy them? The old housekeeper of the Chung mansion worriedly reported to Chung Yaojin. So expensive? Chung Yaojin was also shocked. He secretly cursed the merchants in Chang and for being treacherous. Although he was a duke, he wasn't as rich as Li Zishuan. The Duke Lu's mansion didn't have any extra food. Facing the high price of 115 coins, Chung Yaojin was a bit hesitant. However, he couldn't help but think of Li Zishuan's meaningful words after yesterday's morning court. Uncle Chung, when the time comes, you may find that the most precious part of your chickens isn't the meat. You may not be willing to sell your chickens. Chung Yaojin frowned. Now he understood that Li Zishuan raised so many chickens. It wasn't as simple as what he said in court. There must be more to it. Chung Yaojin thought of Li Zishuan's godlike master. He clenched his teeth and made a decision. I continue to buy. Housekeeper Liang, when the gate of the Eastern Market opens, you go there. Bring more people with you and act separately. Li Zishuan got a new piece of land yesterday. I think he will continue to raise chickens on his land. The price of the chicken shoots will only get more and more expensive. Try to be ahead of them and buy all the chicken shoots in the Eastern Market. Try to get 30,000 chickens as soon as possible. Anyway, that kid's family doesn't lack money. Let them buy later. Ha! As Chung Yaojin spoke, he burst into laughter. In his heart, he was silently praising himself for being quick-witted. Housekeeper Liang also felt that Cheng Yaojin's words made sense. He quickly bowed and left. It had to be said that Cheng Yaojin's speculation was very accurate. At this time, Li Zixuan was at home. He asked housekeeper Wang to continue buying chicken shoots. Uncle Wang, how many more chickens do we need from the 80,000 in the Han village? Housekeeper Wang took out a small booklet and looked at it. He said, Young master, with the ones we bought today, we are less than 10,000 chickens. I think we can get them by tomorrow. Li Zixuan said happily, Not bad. We will have 80,000 chickens by tomorrow. You can continue to buy. I will go to Plum Village tomorrow and see how many chickens the farmers can raise. Conservatively speaking, we need at least 70,000 more. Housekeeper Wang widened his eyes and said, Young master, the price of a chicken shoot in Chang and has risen to 115 copper coins. Do we still need to buy so many? So expensive? It was almost double the initial price of 70 copper coins. Li Zixuan pondered for a moment and asked, Uncle Wang, how much will it cost to gather all 80,000 chickens for the Han family village? Housekeeper Wang silently calculated for a moment and answered, Young master, it will cost about 13,000 strings of cash. A string of cash in the Tang Dynasty was only 800 copper coins. Therefore, it was reasonable to ask for 13,000 strings of cash for 80,000 chickens. Li Zixuan nodded. It was still within the range he could afford. He said, Uncle Wang, continue to buy. We can still afford it. Although housekeeper Wang did not understand, he still nodded. Chapter 98. The next day, after Li Zixuan finished his breakfast, he called for Iron Egg and asked, Iron Egg, come with me to the Han village today. You've been here for so long, it's time for you to go home. Iron Egg was happy to hear that. After being here for so long, he was indeed homesick, so he said, Thank you, master. Brother, I want to go too. Lana immediately shouted. Li Zixuan and Iron Egg had both left, so it was meaningless for her to stay at home alone. Li Zixuan thought about it. If he let one sheep go, he would let a flock of sheep go as well. So he nodded his head indifferently. Li Zixuan carried Lan, and rode the big white horse at home. Iron Egg didn't know how to ride a horse, so Li Zixuan asked Sambao to get him a little donkey. Just like that, the three of them rode 2 horses and headed to the Han village. Greetings, Lord Zhu. Greetings, Lord Zhu. As soon as they entered the Han village, many farmers who were working in the fields hurried over to greet Li Zixuan. Among these people, there were old people and young adults. Now that Li Zixuan had become a Lord Zhu, the farmers of the Han village were even more proud. Li Zixuan didn't put on airs. He smiled and greeted everyone one by one, then brought Lanner and Iron Egg to the small courtyard of the Han village. When they passed by Old Hu's house, Li Zixuan heard the sound of gee-gee-goo-goo from afar. It was abnormally noisy, so he looked over and found that the courtyard door was wide open. Other than the Hu siblings, there were 8 or 9 children inside. Li Zixuan also found Ernyo, who had reported to him when Lan was captured. Li Zixuan was curious, so he said to Iron Egg, Iron Egg, bring Lan to your house first. I'll come later. Iron Egg replied, Yes, master. Li Zixuan led the big white horse towards Old Hu's courtyard. Ernyo, you have to treat these chickens as your friends. Have some patience. Then, pay attention to the rhythm when sure enough and I call the chickens. You'll be able to learn it very quickly. In the courtyard, Hu actually gently gathered the hair on her forehead and squatted on the ground, patiently explaining to Ernyo and the other brats the essentials of making the chickens obedient. It had been a while since they last met, and Hu's complexion was much better than the last time. Moreover, she looked more energetic. It should be because her family's life had improved recently. Ernyo scratched his head and said naively, Thank you, sister. I'll try again with Zhu Zi and the others. At this time, Hu Zhen smiled happily and said, Hee, Ernyo, don't be in a hurry. Take your time. Huh, young master is here. Sure enough, when Hu saw Li Zixuan, who had just entered the door, he suddenly jumped up and shouted excitedly. He knew that the reason why the siblings were so popular in the village was entirely because of Li Zixuan's help. Therefore, He was very grateful to Lisa Schwan. When Hu Zhen heard her brother's cheers, she quickly stood up and looked at the door. Although she couldn't see, she could feel it. She rushed in the direction where Lisa Schwan was standing and bowed slightly. She smiled sweetly and said, "Greetings, Lord Ju." That sweet smile was like a pure lotus blooming, decorating the entire farmhouse courtyard. When the other brats saw Lisa Schwan, they quickly imitated the adults and bowed. "Greetings, young master. Greetings, young master. Greetings, Lord Ju. Greetings, Lord Ju." The brats all addressed him differently, and it was a mess. When Lisa Schwan saw that Hu Zhen and her brother were living so happily, he was also very gratified. He took a package from a horse's back and took out a bag of snacks. He handed it to Aaron Yo and shouted to the brats, "All right, everyone come over and share something to eat. I'll talk to Hu Zhen and Hu Zhen for a while. Zhen, you two come out." The brats excitedly surrounded Aaron Yo and shared the snacks. No one in the village was willing to buy such exquisite food. Hu Zhen and Hu Zhen followed Lisa Schwan out of the courtyard. Zhen, tell me, how have you been recently?" In front of the courtyard, Lisa Schwan found a large rock and sat down. The Hu siblings stood on both sides of him. "Yes, young master." Hu Zhen softly agreed and began to talk about some of the things that happened in the Han village after Lisa Schwan left last time. Ever since Lisa Schwan had made that strange request last time, although the villagers of the Han family manor were too embarrassed to come over and learn this strange skill from the two children, the adults of each household had all rushed their own brats over to learn this skill. One had to know that if they learned it, they could receive a reward of 500 copper coins. This was not a small amount of money. It was enough to buy 2 new sets of clothes for their children for the new year. Thus, the small courtyard of the Hu family had almost become the village's school. The Hu siblings were naturally the teachers of this school. Those children who learned the ability to train chickens were naturally praised by their parents when they returned home. They were provided with good food and drinks, as if they had obtained good results in the school. Those brats who couldn't learn after a few days, when they returned home, their parents would feel that they were not as good as the children of other families. Naturally, they couldn't avoid being beaten up. Just like those brats who didn't do well in the exams, they wouldn't have a good ending when they returned home. Just like this, the Hu siblings became the leaders of the brats in the Han village. Even the adults in the village had to smile and greet them when they saw them. In these few days, Hu Zhen really made some good friends. She became more cheerful and talkative. When Hu Zhen saw that her brother was happy, the smile on her face became more and more. There was a bit more vitality that a young girl of her age should have, and she was no longer as lethargic as when Lisa Schwan first saw her a few days ago. After hearing this, Lisa Schwan was very happy for the siblings. "Well, not bad, Zhen. I hope that you will always be so happy." "Oh, right? How many people have you taught now?" Hu Zhen said proudly. "Young master, we taught 45 people, Lisa Schwan smiled and said, "Well, you two have done well. In the next few days, I should be able to find Dr. Sun Simiao. When the time comes, I will ask him to come over and take a look at you too." Hearing this, Hu Zhen's little face was full of surprise. She said in disbelief, "Young master, you said that you would find a famous doctor to treat me and Zhen. Are you talking about Dr. Sun?" Lisa Schwan nodded. Then he remembered that Hu Zhen could not see, so he quickly said, "Yes, it's Dr. Sunday Zhen. Have you heard of Dr. Sun?" Hu Zhen said with a face of admiration, "Of course I have. I admire people like Dr. Sun, who saves people and helps the injured without asking for anything in return." Lisa Schwan did not expect Hu Zhen to be a loyal fan of Sun Simiao. He asked half-jokingly, "Have you ever thought that if your eyes are cured, Dr. Sun wants to take you as his disciple? Would you be willing?" Hearing this, Hu Zhen's face was first excited, and then a trace of sadness flashed across her face. She shook her head and said, "Young master, you must be joking. I am not talented, and I am a woman. How could Dr. Sun be willing to take me as his disciple?" "Haha, can't women learn medicine?" Lisa Schwan shook his head and did not want to argue. After chatting with the siblings for a while, he went to the small courtyard of the Han family. Chapter 99. The sun was high in the sky. Li Zixuan finally arrived at the Han family's courtyard. From afar, he could hear Lan and Iron Egg's noisy voices. Sister Yushi, Lan wants to eat the chicken stewed with mushrooms from last time. Sister, Iron Egg wants to eat gnawed chicken. You brat, gnawed chicken is so expensive. How can you eat it every day? This was Han Lijing's voice. A few days ago, he had gone into the city to ask about the price of the gnawed chicken. After finding out, Han Lijing's heart ached. The last time Li Zixuan came to their house, Iron Egg had eaten a lot of gnawed chicken. Li Zixuan smiled, pushed open the courtyard door, and walked in. Han Lijing was chopping firewood in the courtyard. When he saw Li Zixuan, he quickly went up to him and said with a smile, "Lord Zhu, you're here." After saying that, he quickly took the reins from Li Zixuan's hands. Li Zixuan waved his hand and refused. He tied the big white horse to a big tree in the courtyard and replied with a smile, "Uncle Han, don't call me Lord Zhu. Uncle Han, don't call me Lord Zhu. It's fine if others call me that. You and my father are old friends, and I'm Tai Dan's master. You can call me Little Xian or Young Master." Han Lijing saw that Li Zixuan treated people as politely as before after becoming a baron. When he heard Li Zixuan's sincerity, he felt warm in his heart. He smiled and said, "Hee, then young master, please come in and have a seat. It's hot outside." Li Zixuan smiled and nodded. He said so much to Han Lijing because he didn't want his relationship with his family to be too estranged. "Yushi, young master is here. Hurry up and prepare the food. Don't let young master wait too long." Han Lijing shouted into the kitchen. "Got it, father. It'll be ready soon." Han Yushi's pleasant voice came from the kitchen. Seeing that her brother had come, Lan came into the house and played with Li Zixuan intimately for a while. Then, she could not help but go out with Iron Egg. Once the little girl went to the countryside, she became even wilder. She felt that the farmstead was much more fun than Chang'an. Inside the house, Han Lijing saw Lan and Iron Egg go out. He sighed with emotion. Iron Egg's mother passed away a long time ago. This boy has been used to being wild since he was young and doesn't know any etiquette. He must have caused a lot of trouble for Master and Madam in young Master's house. This old man really feels sorry for him. Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "Uncle Han, what are you talking about? Since I have already accepted Iron Egg as my disciple, my parents have long treated Iron Egg as one of their own. What trouble is there to speak of? Moreover, I see that Iron Egg has a good character. With a little training, he will be a promising talent." When Han Lijing heard Li Zixuan's words, he could not hide the smile on his face. Any father would be happy to hear someone praise their son. "Haha, as long as that boy doesn't cause trouble for young master. Uncle Han, I came here this time because I want to go to Plum Village. You should know that the fief that His Majesty gave me is in Plum Village. How much do you know about Plum Village?" After chatting for a while, Li Zixuan got down to business. Han Lijing nodded and said, "Young master, we are all neighbors, so of course I know. Plum Village's Lu Qingfeng was a scholar in his early years. He can be considered a person of virtue and prestige in Plum Village. I have some friendship with him. The previous owner of Plum Village was Lu Shiren. Young master, you already know this. Lu Shiren was rich but heartless. He brought disaster to the village. Lu Qingfeng was angry with him, but he did not dare to say anything. Plum Village's farmers not only had to bear high rent, but they were also exploited. Although I don't like Lu Shiren's actions, I can't do anything about it. But this time, Plum Village has become young master's fief. I think the people of Plum Village will be overjoyed if they know about it." Li Zixuan was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, "Good and evil will happen. There is a cycle of reincarnation. Lu Shiren will receive the retribution he deserves. Uncle Han, take me to Plum Village in the afternoon. I want to see the situation there. Also, I plan to imitate the Han Village and open a chicken farm in Plum Village. It can be considered as increasing the income of the farmers." Han Lijing sighed and said, "Young master is really benevolent. Father, young master, it's time to eat." At this time, Han Yushi's shout came from outside. Then, Han Yushi walked in with a plate of dishes. Of course, she was followed by two little tails. After not seeing her for a long time, Han Yushi became more and more radiant. The joy between her eyebrows made her beautiful face even more moving. Although it was not the first time he saw Han Yushi, Li Zixuan was still mesmerized by her peerless appearance. He was a little dazed for a moment. Ahem. Han Lijing coughed softly twice. Li Zixuan was instantly awakened, and his face turned red in embarrassment. He was even caught staring at Han Lijing's daughter in front of him. No matter how thick-skinned Li Zixuan was, he still felt a little embarrassed. Han Yushi put down the plate and hurried out, planning to go to the kitchen to get the rest of the dishes. Just now, she also noticed Li Zixuan's stunned gaze and felt a little happy in her heart. In the morning, when Iron Egg and Lan came over early, she found out that Li Zixuan went to Hu Jing's house and would come over in a while. Then, she did not know why, but when Lan and Iron Egg went out to play, she secretly went back to her room to dress up. Just now, she called Li Zixuan young master and not Lord Ju because she had some ulterior motives. After the news of Li Zixuan's knighthood spread throughout the Han family manor yesterday, Han Yushi was happy for Li Zixuan in her heart, but also a little sad that the gap between her and Li Zixuan's status was getting bigger and bigger. But when she thought of how she had ignored her father's dissuasion and resolutely agreed to help Li Zixuan brew wine, Han Yushi could not bear to give up at that time. She secretly decided that even if she could not be with him in the future, she would cherish the days they had now and treat him well. She would not regret it in the future. Therefore, when Han Yushi called Li Zixuan young master just now, she also wanted to numb herself and not let herself think about the gap between their statuses. When the dishes were served, everyone sat down. Only then did Li Zixuan notice that the dishes on the table today were a little unusual. Other than the pheasant stewed with mushrooms from last time, there were also leek scrambled eggs, wood ear fried meat, fried shredded chicken, and stir-fried spinach cabbage. These stir-fried dishes or fried vegetables were only available in the Li family and would not be available outside. Yushi, how do you know how to cook these dishes? Li Zixuan could not help but ask. Han Yushi was a little embarrassed as she combed her hair and said softly, "The last time I stayed at Young Master's house, Yushi saw that the cooking method at Young Master's house was a little unusual. Out of curiosity, I went to ask your kitchen maid, Annie Zhao, and only then did I know that you could cook in this way." So, Yushi went home and tried cooking a few times and found that the taste was not bad. Later, Yushi thought of some other dishes that could be stir-fried with a big fire. Just nice. I can use these new dishes to treat young master today. Li Zixuan smelled the fragrance of these stir-fried dishes and gave a thumbs up. He praised, "Not bad, not bad. Just smelling this aroma is enough to stimulate one's appetite. Yushi, you are really clever." Han Lijing chuckled and said, "Young master, you don't know. When my Yushi cooked at home for the first time, old Han almost swallowed my tongue. Cooking like this, the taste is really too good." Lanner could not wait to pick up her chopsticks and try the leek scrambled eggs. The little girl immediately narrowed her eyes and exclaimed, "It's really too delicious." "Brother," Lanner doesn't even want to go home. "I want to eat Sister Yushi's dishes here every day." Everyone was amused by these innocent words. Li Zixuan also picked up his chopsticks and started eating. He realized that Lan was not exaggerating at all. The taste of these stir-fried dishes was basically comparable to some of the big restaurants in his previous life. It was even more delicious than the ones made by Annie Zhao at home. Han Yushi's culinary skills were simply superior. Li Zixuan tasted some of the flavors from his previous life in these dishes. For a moment, his appetite was stimulated. He ate a total of 4 bowls of rice before he put down his bowl and chopsticks in satisfaction. However, in his heart, he thought that if he could marry this fairy-like and clever girl, he would have accumulated 8 lifetimes of virtue. Han Yushi saw that Li Zixuan was eating happily. She could not help but feel a little sweet in her heart. Her efforts over the past few days had not been in vain. She had just said it was simple, but in order to come up with these new dishes, only God knew how much effort she had put in. However, from the results, all her efforts were worth it. She had already taken the first step and captured Li Zixuan's stomach. Chapter 100. After lunch, Li Zixuan sat in the front hall and happily drank the chilled fruit wine that Han Yushi had taken from the ancient well. He was chatting with Han Li in the house. There was no helping it. The weather had been a little abnormal recently. It was just May, and the weather had started to heat up. The afternoon sun was especially scorching. Even though Li Zixuan had internal energy and was immune to both heat and cold, he didn't want to be exposed to the scorching sun. He could only wait for the sun to warm up a little before going to Plum Village. After all, it was less than 2 li away from the Han Manor. Lan this crazy girl, wasn't afraid of the sun. She followed Iron Egg to the manor to play with Dinyo and Ernyo. Li Zixuan wasn't too worried. Now that everyone in the manor knew that Lan was his sister, there shouldn't be anyone who was blind enough to bully Lan. Li Zixuan didn't know that while he was enjoying the cool air in the Han Manor's courtyard, there were many manor owners in Plum Village who were exposed to the scorching sun. Many manor owners gathered at the entrance of Plum Village. Everyone was sitting under a big tree and chatting with each other while looking into the distance, as if waiting for something. Big Mouth May, is what you said true? Why isn't Lord Ju here yet? A tanned old man with bare arms was fanning himself with a straw hat as he asked casually. Mei Jun quickly nodded and said with certainty, "Fourth Master, I wouldn't dare to lie about this. I went to the Han Manor this morning, and my brother-in-law personally told me that Lord Ju came to the Han Manor. Think about it. Our manor is so close to the Han Manor, and it's Lord Ju's fief. Lord Ju will definitely come and take a look. I say, Mei Laosi, why are you in such a hurry? It's such a hot day. Won't you let Lord Ju rest for a while?" An old man was lying on a bamboo mat and enjoying his eldest grandson fanning him with a cattail leaf fan. When he heard Mei Laosi's words, he couldn't help but rebuke him. "Hey, second brother Liu, I'm just anxious. When I heard that Lord Ju's fief was in our manor yesterday, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep well the entire night. Haha, our manor's good days are coming." Mei Laosi hurriedly explained when he heard the old man's reprimand. "TSK, look at you." The old man on the ground was the second Master Lu Wanshan, who Mei Jun had met in the East Market a few days ago. This man was a man of virtue and prestige in Mei Village. His elder brother was the village chief, Lu Qingfeng. Lu Qingfeng was just a scholar with a weak personality. In the past, when he saw Lu Serene and his son bullying the villagers, he did not dare to speak up. However, Second Master Lu was not like his elder brother. He was a fearless master. As soon as he saw Lu Serene and his son bullying the villagers, Second Master Lu would directly pick up his walking stick and hit the heads of the father and son. In his opinion, he had 7 sons, all of whom were tall and strong. If they really fought, he would not be at a disadvantage. Taking a step back, he was already so old. Could it be that Lu Serene and his son could beat him to death? One had to know that in ancient society, people were very respectful to the elderly. If Lu Serene really dared to beat Second Master Lu to death, it would be a very serious case. The father and son's lives would not be spared. Therefore, Second Master Lu's reputation in Mei Village was even higher than his elder brother, Lu Qingfeng. It was not an exaggeration to say that he could rally hundreds of people at a single call during critical times. Yesterday, when Zhao Lauer of Mei Village brought back the news that Li Zixuan was in theft and that his fief was in Mei Village, the entire village was in an uproar. One had to know that the Han Manor situation was not much different from Mei Village's. After the Li family took over the Han Manor, they reduced the rent. The Han Manor was able to provide for food and clothing. The overall situation was slightly better than Mei Village's. Recently, Li Zixuan had taken over the Li family's authority and personally managed the Han Manor. Not only did he increase the income of the villagers by purchasing wild fruits, he also reduced the rent by letting the villagers help raise chickens. Furthermore, the eggs that the chickens laid would belong to the villagers. It was said that after the reduction, the annual rent of many villagers was only 10%. This was amazing. There was probably no other village with such favorable conditions in the entire Tang Dynasty. As the neighboring village of the Han Manor, the villagers of Mei Village were envious. They secretly hated that they were not born in the Han Manor. Now, Mei Village had become Li Zixuan's fief. The entire village would probably be able to enjoy the same treatment as the Han Manor. When the news reached the village yesterday, Lu Wanshan was the first to jump out. Ignoring Lu Qingfeng's obstruction, he shouted in the village, "Lu Shiren, get out of Mei Village." Lu Shiren's land was about to be taken away by the imperial court, so he, Second Master Lu, had nothing to be afraid of. He rolled up his sleeves and fought. If he did not vent this anger, he would not be satisfied even if he died. Second Master Lu's prestige in Plum Village was very high to begin with. With a shout, how could the villagers who were usually bullied by Lu Shiren hold themselves back? In an instant, hundreds of villagers responded to his call. Hundreds of villagers scrambled to follow him, majestically charging towards Lu Shiren's mansion. Lu Shiren, get out of Mei Village. Get out of Mei Village. Get out of Mei Village. Outside Lu Shiren's mansion, hundreds of villagers shouted in unison. Their shouts shook the heavens, frightening Lu Shiren and his son. The father and son hurriedly ordered their servants to block the door with all their might. However, they hid inside the house, trembling as they waited for the villagers to disperse when they were tired of shouting. Outside the mansion, Second Master Lu saw that Lu Shiren had become a coward. They could not pry open this turtle shell, so he took the lead and threw stones at Lu Shiren's house. The other villagers followed suit, picking up things that were convenient for them and throwing them at Lu Shiren's house. What was strange was that someone even used leaves to wrap cow dung and threw it in. As night fell, the villagers could not stay there forever. They all dispersed, agreeing to come back the next day. Lu Shiren and his son hurriedly packed their belongings in the night, including the compensation given to them by the government. After packing the gold and silver into boxes, the father and son took a few guards with them. They did not even care about the dilapidated mansion and escaped through the night. When Second Master Lu brought people to the Lu residence this morning, they naturally did not find anything. Second Master Lu spat at the door of the Lu residence in disdain and left. When it was close to noon, there was news that Li Zishuan might come to Mei Village. Other than those who had worked today, all the villagers were excited to welcome the new master of Mei Village at the entrance of the village. Second Master Lu naturally followed along. That day, he followed behind Mei Jun and also bought a curved plow. When he returned home, he tried it out. It was indeed very useful. Therefore, he was both excited and curious about the new master of Mei Village. At this time, although the sun was scorching and the heat was unbearable, no one was willing to leave. Many people were looking forward to the good days ahead under the trees. It seemed that their families would not starve anymore. They could even sew new clothes for their children during the new year. There are also some farmers who were telling their children how benevolent the new Lord Ju was. Perhaps in the future, they might have eggs to eat every month and meat to eat during the new year. Those naughty children listened and unknowingly drooled for a long time. Chapter 101. It was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon in modern times. Li Zishuan noticed that the sun was not as hot as it was at noon, so he went to Plum Village with Han Lijing. After all, he still had a lot of things to do there. If he was a few hours later, he might not be able to make it back in time. He had also asked Han Yushi if she wanted to go with him. After all, it was pleasing to the eye to have such a godlike person by his side. However, Han Yushi refused. It was not that she did not want to accompany Li Zishuan, but she still had to gather some girls from the same village in the afternoon to brew the fruit wine. The fruits near the Han family manor had been picked clean these days. The brewing of the fruit wine was also at the final stage. Han Yushi really could not leave. As for Lan and Iron Egg, they had already gone somewhere. Li Zishuan could only bitterly endure the hot sun with Han Lijing and go to Plum Village. Hey, look, isn't that Han Tianhu from the Han family manor? A young man sat on a big tree at the entrance of Plum Village. He sat high up and could see far. He was the first to see Li Zishuan and Han Lijing. It really is Han Lijing. Then who is the young man beside him? Could it be Lord Li? Nonsense. How can Lord Li be so young? Also, how can Lord Li go out without an attendant? It's Lord Li. I saw him at the entrance of Strange Interest Pavilion last time. Lord Li is here. Lord Li is here. Second Master Lu was lying on the bamboo mat, and was about to fall asleep. Suddenly, he heard the cheers of the crowd. The old man quickly climbed up from the bamboo mat and followed the crowd with his eldest grandson to look in the direction of the sound. Li Zishuan saw the black mass of people at the entrance of the village from afar and was shocked. He thought that there were villagers gathering to cause trouble. He quickly quickened his pace with Han Lijing, wanting to find out what was going on. "Greetings, Lord Li. Welcome, Lord Li. Greetings, Lord Li. Welcome, Lord Li." As soon as he reached the entrance of the village, Li Zishuan was shocked by the uniform cheers. "Young master, I'm afraid that the villagers of Plum Village know that you're coming and have gathered at the entrance of the village to welcome you," Han Lijing reminded from the side. Li Zishuan nodded and looked at the group of men and women, old and young. Many of them were emaciated, their faces yellow and their bodies emaciated. Those bare-chested, burly men were bright red from the sun and were covered in sweat. Some of the children were also sweating profusely. They hid behind the adults and looked at him timidly. It was obvious that this group of people had been waiting under the scorching sun for a long time. Li Zishuan felt very uncomfortable in his heart. He secretly blamed himself for coming so late. He didn't want to wait for others or make others wait for him in both his previous and current life, so he couldn't bear to have these villagers wait for him like this. He hurriedly walked forward. "Uncles and aunties, sorry to keep you waiting." When Li Zishuan shouted, he used a bit of his inner strength, and the excited and noisy crowd immediately calmed down. Li Zishuan continued, "I don't know how everyone knew that I was coming, but I don't want everyone to welcome me like this. I can't bear it. Seeing that many of you are sweating profusely from the sun, I'll make it short. Once you're done, you can go back to your own homes, okay?" "Okay, Lord Zhu, please tell us." "We're all listening." "Yes, Lord Zhu, please tell us." Li Zishuan gestured with his hands and said in a clear voice, "Then everyone listen up. From today onwards, Plum Village will be my fief. You will no longer be bullied by Lu Shuren. From today onwards, Plum Village will enjoy all the preferential treatment that the Han family manor enjoys, including the mountain fruit business and the reduced rent for raising chickens. From today onwards, as long as you work hard, your days will only get better and better." "Okay. Thank you, Lord Zhu." "Okay. Lord Zhu is merciful." When the crowd heard the promise that they had been waiting for, they all cheered excitedly. Previously, they had only privately guessed that Plum Village might enjoy the same benefits as the Han family manor. Now that they heard Li Zishuan's promise personally, they finally felt completely at ease. Some of the old farmers who had suffered so much couldn't help but cry. Second Master Lu secretly nodded his head in the crowd. Based on Second Master Lu's experience in reading people, this Lord Zhu was a good young man with good character. It seemed that Second Master Lu would be able to enjoy his later years in peace and not have to fight with the landlord every day. Li Zishuan let them vent their emotions before continuing. "Okay, that's all I have to say. Next, if there are any of you who don't understand the benefits of the Han family manor, you can come and ask Han Lijing, who is beside me. If you understand clearly, please go to Plum Village's Lu Lijing to register how many chickens you can raise in your house. I'd like to remind everyone to act according to their ability and don't simply report numbers. Is Lu Lijing here today?" I'm here. "Lord Zhu, I'm here." A frail old man with a crooked back walked out from the crowd. Li Zishuan frowned. This Lu Lijing had too much of the aura of a Confucian scholar and lacked the domineering aura of Han Lijing. It was no wonder that trash like Lu Shuren could ride on the necks of all the Plum Village's villagers and defecate and piss unscrupulously. Li Zishuan's tone was a little serious. "Lu Lijing, I won't pursue the past matters. However, from today onwards, as the village chief, you must ensure that all the farmers in Plum Village will no longer be bullied by outsiders. Otherwise, there's no need for you to continue as the village chief." Lu Lijing's face turned red when he heard Li Zishuan's words. He cupped his hands and said, "You're right, Lord Zhu. I was weak in the past, and have indeed let these farmers down." Second Master Lu saw his elder brother being reprimanded and couldn't help but want to jump out and plead for Lu Qingfeng. However, After thinking about it, he held himself back. His elder brother's personality was indeed too weak and needed to be changed. Is his second master Lu here today? Li Zishuan nodded and decided to give Lu Lijing a chance. Then, he looked at the crowd and asked. On the way here, Han Lijing had also told him about the famous second master Lu in Plum Village. He admired and had a good impression of this second master Lu, who was somewhat chivalrous in Jianghu. Since he had confirmed that the new Lord Zhu was sincerely looking out for the good of the farmers, there was nothing for him to do here. Second Master Lu was about to leave when he heard Li Zishuan calling for him. The crowd immediately opened up a path for Second Master Lu. This was Second Master Lu's unparalleled influence in Plum Village. Second Master Lu walked out and cupped his hands at Li Zishuan. This old man is not worthy of being called Lord Zhu. Lord Zhu, please call me Lu Wanshan. Although Second Master Lu had a tough personality, he was not someone who did not know what was good for him. If others respected him, he would respect them tenfold. Li Zishuan shook his head and smiled. I heard that Second Master Lu is chivalrous and often stands up for the farmers. I am very impressed. In the future, Second Master Lu will be the deputy village chief of Plum Village. I will report this to the Imperial Court. I hope that Second Master Lu can manage Plum Village with Lu Lijing in the future. Second Master Lu wanted to refuse, but seeing Li Zishuan's sincerity, he hesitated for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. Then I thank Lord Zhu for your trust. I will not let you down. Li Zishuan nodded and said to Lu Lijing, Lu Lijing, register the farmers now. I will go to the farms and take a look. Before I leave, give me the registration results. Lu Lijing quickly bowed and agreed. Yes, Lord Zhu. Li Zishuan then shouted to the crowd, Uncles and aunties, if you want to register, quickly come to Lu Lijing to register. After you are done, quickly go home. Don't get sick from the sun. Everyone agreed. Li Zishuan saw that there was nothing for him to do here, so he bid farewell to Han Lijing and entered the village alone. Chapter 102. The sun was setting in the west, and a cool breeze blew. Li Zishuan had already finished touring the entire Plum Village by himself. Of course, there were no incidents of him getting lost or meeting a beautiful woman by chance. After all, how could there be so many beautiful women in the countryside? Han Yushi was just a special case. Plum Village was surrounded by mountains and rivers. The environment was very elegant. After Li Zishuan finished touring the village, he even had the thought of living here in seclusion. Shaking his head, he got rid of this unrealistic thought. Li Zishuan came to the village entrance and took the statistical booklet that Lu Qingfeng had made for the villagers. Then, he returned to the Han family manor. After arriving at the Han family manor, Li Zishuan asked Han Lijing to inform some villagers to go to Plum Village tomorrow to guide them in the construction of the chicken farm. Li Zishuan returned to the Han family manor alone. The Han family manor's manor. Han Ling, quickly bring 3 people to wash the wild strawberries. Okay, Sister Yushi. Xiang, bring 4 people to wash and cut these hawthorns. Sister Yushi, Xiang will go now. Wenwen, go get some water, sugar, and distilled yeast. Okay. The moment Li Zishuan entered the manor, he felt as if he had come to a country of women. The manor was full of young and lively girls, making the surrounding air seem fresher. This was the first time he saw Han Yushi personally making wine. He saw her use a hairband to tie up her long hair. Her sleeves were also rolled up high, revealing 2 slender, white, jade-like arms. She was squeezing some juice, mixing some distilled yeast and sugar, and pouring it into the wine jar. Her movements were so elegant. Her every move was poetic. While she was busy with the work in her hands, she directed the girls to do their jobs and work together. The manor seemed to have become her battlefield, and she was the female general of the battlefield. Perhaps it was because of the hot weather, but there were already beads of sweat on Han Yushi's nose. Some traces of sweat could also be seen on the clothes on her back. Every time she bent down, the thin white dress outlined her beautiful figure. See no evil, see no evil. Li Zishuan hurriedly turned his face away and coughed twice. Only then did Han Yushi and the other girls realize that Lisa Xuan had already entered the door. "Greetings, Lord Zhu." All the girls stopped what they were doing and bowed to Lisa Xuan. Han Yushi gave him a smile. "Young master, you're back." When Lisa Xuan heard this, he felt a little strange. It was as if a wife was greeting her husband who had just returned from afar. Shaking his head to get rid of the wild thoughts in his mind, he hurriedly smiled at the girls. "There's no need to be so courteous. Carry on with your work. Don't delay it because of me." After saying that, Lisa Xuan walked straight to Han Yushi. Although the other girls returned to their original positions and continued with their work, their eyes secretly glanced over from time to time. Which girl didn't yearn for love? Lisa Xuan was handsome and had a high status. He was young and rich. It would be a lie if they said they weren't moved. However, they all understood that in terms of beauty, all of them added together couldn't compare to Han Yushi. Now, they were looking at Lisa Xuan and Han Yushi with gossipy gazes. All the girls wanted to know if Han Yushi, the most beautiful girl in the Han family manor and even the surrounding villages, could capture the heart of this young Lord Zhu. Of course, in their hearts, they really hoped that Han Yushi and Lisa Xuan would end up together, because then, this young Lord Zhu would be the son-in-law of the Han family manor. The Han family manor would continue to have good days in the future. "Yushi, you've worked hard. Come and wipe your sweat." Lisa Xuan tenderly handed over a handkerchief. He wasn't used to wearing it on his body. He felt that only women would wear handkerchiefs. However, every time Shi helped him pack his clothes, she would put a washed handkerchief on his waist. After a long time, Lisa Xuan was too lazy to correct her. He didn't expect to use it today. He wanted to personally wipe Han Yushi's sweat. However, he remembered that this was ancient times. If he did so, it would be too presumptuous. Not only would it ruin a girl's reputation, Han Yushi would probably ignore him in the future. It had to be said that even though Lisa Xuan had been in a relationship in his previous life, he was still a novice when it came to understanding women's thoughts. Until now, he still couldn't see Han Yushi's feelings for him. Han Yushi hesitated for a moment. She shyly took the handkerchief and thanked him. Then, she gently wiped the sweat on her face and said, "Young master, this is the last batch of fruit wine. The previous batch of fruit wine can already be taken out of the cellar. When will it be sent to you?" Lisa Xuan muttered. "How much was the last batch of fruit wine?" Han Yushi thought for a moment and replied, "There were a total of 80 jars. Each jar was about 40 pounds. Lisa Xuan nodded and said, "Then tomorrow, ask your father to call a few young men and send the last batch of fruit wine to my house." "Yushi, are you free tomorrow? After the wine is sent over, we will start mixing the wine. Do you want to come together?" Finally, she could help the young master. Han Yushi was a little excited. She quickly replied, "Yes, young master. Today's last batch of fruit juice and wine can be put into the cellar after mixing. That's all." Lisa Xuan happily said, "That's good." At this moment, Lan'er and Iron Egg came back. The little girl was sweating all over, but her face was filled with a happy smile. Lisa Xuan was a little speechless. His little sister's temper was getting wilder and wilder. "Master, brother." The two little guys greeted Lisa Xuan. Lisa Xuan nodded. Seeing that it was getting late, he said goodbye to Han Yushi. Iron Egg stayed. Lisa Xuan asked him to go to the city with Han Yushi and the others tomorrow. As soon as he got home, Lisa Xuan immediately went to the study. He wanted to draw a set of distillation equipment. A complete set of distillation equipment was divided into two parts, the distillation pot and the condenser. Lisa Xuan planned to make the distillation pot with pure copper. First, copper had a good thermal conductivity. Second, copper was a catalyst for some esterification reactions. Third, copper had a good resistance to the acidity of the raw wine. Fourth, copper could make butyric acid, hexanoic acid, decanoic acid, lauric acid, and so on form in soluble copper salts and precipitate them so that these unpleasant acids could be removed. As for the condenser part, Lisa Xuan planned to use a clay pot to fire it, because in this era, the process of firing glass was not mature. Lisa Xuan knew the general formula. but he did not have the time to study it. With the help of his super strong mental strength, he drew a set of distillation equipment in less than an hour. He did not miss a single detail. Then, he quickly went to the workshop before the door was closed. He asked Faubert to help him make a set of distillation equipment before noon tomorrow. Faubert looked at the blueprint. It was not difficult, so he agreed. Lisa Schwan breathed a sigh of relief. When he returned home, he bumped into Wang Zhong and Sanbao, who came back from the East Market. Wang Zhong immediately asked for forgiveness. "Young master, I did not buy many chicken seedlings today. This old servant has failed in his duty. I have let young master down." Lisa Schwan was surprised. "Why?" Wang Zhong told Lisa Schwan about how the Chung family's housekeeper brought a lot of people to the East Market and bought all the chicken seedlings in less than a quarter of an hour. Lisa Schwan pondered for a moment and understood the ins and outs of the matter. He shook his head and laughed. "Uncle Wang, you don't have to buy the chicken seedlings for the next 2 days. Let the Chung family buy them first. All right, the Plum Village still needs 70,000 chicken seedlings. Uncle Wang, you can buy them all in the future." "But, young master," Wang Zhong reached out his hand and stopped. Lisa Schwan waved his hand and said, "Uncle Wang, it's okay. Our family is not lacking in money. It's fine if we buy them a few days later." Chung Yaojin's guess was right. The Li family was not lacking in money. Since Chung Yaojin was willing to take advantage of Lisa Schwan, it meant that he did not treat Lisa Schwan as an outsider. Of course, Lisa Schwan would not be calculative. Chapter 103. In a private room on the top floor of Yunshi Pavilion. Inside the room, the young master was fiddling with a wine cup in his hand and casually asked, "Our Yunshi Pavilion has already made a move. Is there no movement from the drunken immortal restaurant?" The middle-aged man respectfully replied, "Young master, there's indeed no movement from the drunken immortal restaurant. Neither Lisa Schwan nor manager Liu has made any special moves." "Then what has Lisa Schwan been doing recently? Does he not care about his restaurant's business?" "According to the reports from my subordinates, Lisa Schwan has been busy with his new fief. Today, he even went to Plum Village and Han Village." "Oh, right, young master, Lisa Schwan has asked the villagers to pick some fruits. It seems that he wants Han Tianhu's family to help him brew wine." "What kind of wine?" the young master curiously asked. "Young master, this subordinate guesses that it should be the fruit wine that Han Tianhu and his daughter brewed. Our Yunshi Pavilion has also bought some before, and the taste is indeed very good. However, Lisa Schwan bought it at a high price, and the father and daughter stopped supplying it to us." The young master stood up and muttered with a frown. Could it be that Lisa Schwan plans to use this wine to fight against our Yunshi Pavilion? No, this young master reckons that their wine is not that simple. Immediately send a flying snake to the Han village and bring back a jar of their wine. "Yes, young master." The middle-aged man bowed and was about to leave. The young master suddenly thought of something and suddenly shouted, "Wait!" The middle-aged man quickly turned around and said, "Young master, do you have any other orders?" The young master thought for a moment and said, "We have to plan for both sides. Tomorrow, go and invite Xia Shenyuan from the western part of the city to our Yunshi Pavilion as a chef. Not only do we have to imitate the drunken immortal restaurant's dishes, but we also have to create our own specialty dishes." The middle-aged man hesitated and said, "Young master, this Xia Shenyuan is an imperial chef from the previous dynasty. I'm afraid it won't be easy to invite him." The young master sneered and said, If you can't invite him, can't you use money to threaten his family? Do you still need this young master to teach you what to do?" "Yes, young master, this subordinate knows what to do. By the way, I heard that the Chung family has been following Lisa Schwan and buying chicken seedlings on a large scale." Reporting to young master, there is indeed such a thing. As a result, the price of chicken in Chang has risen to 115 copper coins per chicken. The young master proudly said, "Since they are stupid and have a lot of money, and they want the chicken seedlings so much, you can go to my second uncle today and borrow several big boats. You can go to Jiangnan through the Grand Canal and buy 80,000 chicken seedlings. You can ship them to Chang, and sell them to the two families. This way we can also make a lot of money. When the time comes, we will have more confidence to defeat my good big brother." The middle-aged man exclaimed in admiration, "Young master is truly far-sighted. This subordinate admires you. What are you flattering me for? Hurry up and do your job." The young master impatiently waved his hand and scolded. However, from the flash of joy in his eyes, it could be seen that he enjoyed the flattery very much. After the middle-aged man left the room, the young master looked out of the window. Then, he seemed to have thought of something unhappy. His face was ferocious as he said hatefully, "My good big brother, this time I will definitely not lose to you." Chang in City, Azure Dragon Lane. In the backyard of a luxurious mansion, there was a young girl in gorgeous clothes. She was riding a scooter and playing happily. Not far away in the corridor, there was a young master in white who was looking at the little girl with a smile on his face. Eldest young master, just now in the streets and alleys of Chang and City, some pieces of paper suddenly appeared. On them were notices about the strange interest pavilion. A young servant in green clothes quickly came over and reported to the young master in white. This young servant was Lu Yun, who had applied for a Red Supreme membership card in the strange interest pavilion a few days ago. "Oh, let me see it." The young master in white withdrew his gaze and turned around to take the notice in Lu Yun's hand. After a while, he smiled and said, "Second-generation scooter? This strange interest pavilion is really interesting. Scooter, curved shaft plow, it's really interesting. Lu Yun, take this young master's membership card tomorrow and buy Meng Air a so-called second-generation scooter. This young master wants to see how different this second-generation scooter is from the first generation." Lu Yun didn't understand his young master's strange behavior recently, but he didn't dare to ask. He quickly bowed and said, "Yes, young master." The young master in white nodded slightly, but when he saw that Lu Yun hadn't left, he frowned and said, "What? Do you have something to say?" A trace of struggle flashed across Lu Yun's face. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Reporting to young master, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." The young master in white said unhappily, "If you have something to say it quickly. Don't dawdle." Seeing that the young master was unhappy, Lu Yun quickly said, "Young master, as far as I know, the second young master has taken a lot of measures recently to consolidate the position of the Yunshi house in Chang and City. Seeing that the Yunshi house is about to dominate Chang and City, eldest young master, why are you still what? Still idle around and have nothing to do, right? Forgive me, young master, I didn't mean that. I'm just worried that if this goes on, young master will lose the family trial this time and lose the power." When Lu Yun heard what the young master in white said, he hurriedly bowed and explained in fear. The white-clothed man sighed, but he didn't blame Lu Yun. He said slowly, "You all think I haven't done anything? Okay, it seems that I haven't done anything yet." Lu Yun was almost choked to death by the young master in white's sudden change in topic. The young master in white was embarrassed for a while before he recovered and said, "I haven't done anything yet because the time isn't right yet. This second brother of mine has a very extreme personality. He has always liked to be brave and ruthless, and he is competitive. Some of the elders in the family even agree with his way of doing things. But you all don't understand. Now that the world is settled and the people are united, if we big families still can't see the situation clearly and put on a high and mighty posture and keep fighting with others, we will only make countless enemies. In the end, everyone will push the wall when it is down. At that time, the Li Tang royal family will definitely be happy to see it and hit us when we are down. At the end of the Sui dynasty, all of you were afraid of the slightest thing and didn't dare to jump out to fight with the Li family to seize the country. Now that the world is stable, all of you jump out one by one. Aren't you tired of not dying fast enough?" The young master in white was a little angry as he spoke. In the end, he couldn't help but hit the railing angrily. Lu Yun saw that the young master in white lost his composure and hurriedly comforted, "Young master, please calm down." The young master in white calmed down and continued, In a time of peace and prosperity, blindly being brave and ruthless can't be done. Cooperating with others to win is the smart thing to do and the way to survive. Lu Yin heard this and said in surprise, "Young master, do you want to cooperate with Lisa Xuan? I'm afraid the family won't agree, right?" The young master in white snorted angrily and said angrily, "Humph, a bunch of stubborn old men, never willing to lower their arrogant heads and can't see the situation at all. However, this is only a small trial in the family. All the decisions are up to me. The family has no right to interfere." Lu Yin heard the young master in white's rebellious words and hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to say anything. The young master in white stood in place. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. In the end, he snorted angrily and left with his hands behind his back. Chapter 104. Lisa Xuan didn't know that there were two brothers who were constantly thinking about him. He had been tired for the whole day, so after taking a shower, he fell into a deep sleep not long after lying on the bed. Han Village, Han family courtyard. It was late at night, and the moon was dark and the wind was strong. A black shadow floated over the wall and landed on the ground without making a sound. The black-clothed man looked around, then bent down and carefully sneaked into the wine cellar on the west side of the courtyard. A moment later, he came out with a jar of wine in his arms. His feet lightly tapped the ground, and he was about to soar into the sky. Suddenly, his feet sank, and then a huge force came. He saw a tall and burly old man lift him up and smash him against the courtyard wall with all his strength. "Who are you, sneaking around like this? Tell me your name." Although Han Lijing was already sound asleep, his many years of military life still made him vigilant. At night, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He immediately turned over and saw a black shadow in the courtyard about to leave. He quickly went forward and grabbed the person's ankle and threw him against the courtyard wall. When the black-clothed man was about to hit the wall, he pulled out the soft sword at his waist and poured his internal energy into it. The soft sword made a sound and instantly straightened. The black-clothed man hurriedly pressed the soft sword against the wall to cushion the impact. The soft sword suffered a huge impact and was quickly pressed into an arc. The black-clothed man took advantage of the momentum to do a beautiful somersault in the air and landed steadily. "Oh, I didn't think that there would be an expert in this remote village." After the black-clothed man landed, he looked at Han Lijing and said in a neutral tone. His voice was feminine and ear-piercing. The most disgusting thing was that when he spoke, he even raised his thumb and middle finger. Han Lijing listened to his voice and looked at his actions. Instantly, his hair stood on end and goosebumps appeared all over his body. "Who are you? What do you want in my house in the middle of the night?" Han Lijing trembled and shouted. The black-clothed man laughed. This made Han Lijing so disgusted that he almost threw up his dinner. At this time, he heard the black-clothed man say in a coquettish voice, "I just came to borrow a jar of wine from you. Why are you being so fierce? You hurt me just now. All right, I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. I have to go." After saying that, he twisted his thumb and middle finger, lightly twisted his snake waist, stomped his feet on the ground, and fled far away like a gust of wind. Han Lijing also wanted to chase, but his left leg had an old injury, so it was inconvenient for him to move. Moreover, this black-clothed man's qigong was extremely high, and Han Lijing himself was not proficient in qigong, so he could only stand in the same place, helpless. "Father, what happened?" Han Yushi heard a sound in the courtyard, so she put on her coat and came out to investigate. Han Lijing shook his head and comforted her. "It's okay. Yushi, go back and sleep. Tomorrow, I will accompany you to Chang'an City." Today, the man in black was of unknown origin. Han Lijing smelled a trace of danger. Thinking that his daughter was going to Chang and to deliver wine tomorrow, Han Lijing was somewhat worried and decided to accompany his daughter. Father, then daughter will go to sleep. Father should also rest early." Han Yushi did not see anything unusual, so after she finished speaking, she directly turned around and went back to her room to rest. The next morning, after Li Zishuan finished his breakfast, he asked Faubert to bring people to buy various kinds of wine, and then he went to the west courtyard to practice. Previously, his Taishin Sutra showed signs of breaking through to the 6th level, but as he was busy with mundane affairs these days, the feeling of breaking through in his body disappeared. This made him very depressed, so he decided to work hard today. He wanted to use the sword to refine the true qi in his body. However, someone did not let him do as he wished. He had just practiced for a while when Cheng Chumo came to his door. "Haha, little Xian, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you have been conferred a title. You have to treat your brother to a few drinks." Cheng Chumo laughed loudly and walked into the west courtyard. This fellow was now a frequent guest of the Li family, and there was no need to report his entry. All the servants in the residence knew that he was the son of Lu Guigong, and no one dared to stop him. Li Zishuan put away the wind-chasing sword and came up to him with a smile. "Brother Chonyo, you can't say that. Look, your younger brother has been conferred title. As his elder brother, shouldn't you treat your younger brother to a big meal to celebrate?" Cheng Chumo was suddenly speechless. He scratched his head and muttered, "That seems to be the case." Li Zishuan looked at him and found it funny. He thought that since he had nothing to do, it would be fun to tease this fellow. So he continued, "Then tomorrow, Brother Chonyo will treat us to a big meal at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. How about it?" Cheng Chumo was instantly embarrassed. He knew his family situation very well. His father had just taken out 4,000 to 5,000 strings of cash to buy chicken seedlings, and Li Er had docked 3 months of his father's salary. This was one disaster after another. Old Cheng's family was currently living a tight life, waiting for Old Li to give them salary. Cheng Chumo did not have much pocket money left, so he was too embarrassed to look for his friends. When he heard that Li Zishuan had been conferred a title, he thought that he would be able to freeload a good meal here. Who knew that he would be defeated by Li Zishuan? This instantly turned awkward. However, what kind of person was Cheng Chumo? He did not care about things like face. He chuckled cheekily and said, "Hee hee, that's great. Little Xian, I'll take you to the Yunqi restaurant for a big meal tomorrow. I heard that they invited the imperial chef from the previous dynasty, Xia Shengyuan, to cook there. I'll treat you, and you'll pay. How about it?" When Li Zishuan heard the first half of his sentence, he thought that the sun had risen from the west today. This fellow actually took the initiative to treat him to a meal? When Li Zishuan heard Cheng Chumo say that he would pay for the meal, Li Zishuan staggered. He wanted to slap his size 42 shoes on Cheng Chumo's size 38 face. Of course, Cheng Chumo probably didn't know how big a size 38 was. Li Zishuan said unhappily, "Get the F*CK out of here." After the brothers teased each other for a while, Li Zishuan brought him to the front hall and asked someone to serve tea and snacks. At this moment, he suddenly remembered what Cheng Chumo had said and asked, "Chonyo, you just said that the Yunqi restaurant invited the imperial chef from the previous dynasty?" Cheng Chumo did not eat much in the morning. As he ate tea and snacks, he stammered, "That's right. That imperial chef from the previous dynasty lives not far from my house. When I came over this morning, I heard them talking about it. Sigh, if it weren't for the fact that I'm short on money, I would have gone to try that imperial cuisine." As Cheng Chumo spoke, his saliva was about to drip out. He quickly turned his grief into appetite and ate the tea and snacks on the table with all his might. Li Zishuan was speechless. He had previously guessed that the Cheng residence's finances might be a little tight recently. After all, taking out a few thousand strings of coins all at once would hurt most people. Moreover, if it weren't for the fact that their family was short on money, Cheng Chumo would not have taken the initiative to take advantage of them and buy the chicken seedlings first. However, he had never imagined that Cheng Chumo would be in such a miserable state. He was actually so poor that he came here to freeload. However, the matter that Cheng Chumo mentioned had attracted his attention. The Yunqi restaurant had been making a lot of moves recently, and it was obvious that they wanted to stir up trouble. With the imperial chef's reputation, they would probably attract a lot of diners. Fortunately, his cocktail was almost ready. He had full confidence that it would definitely beat that imperial chef. "Ha, Brother Chonyo, you don't have to be envious of the imperial cuisine. In the end, it's just some old tricks. Our Drunken Immortal restaurant will also be releasing a few new delicacies and a new wine. I guarantee that it will be the best wine in our great Tang. When the time comes, this little brother will invite you to try it. Lisa Xuan chuckled. Hearing this, Chung Chumo's eyes lit up. He automatically filtered out the so-called new dishes. What he cared about the most was the new wine that Lisa Xuan mentioned. As a descendant of a military leader, there was no one who did not like wine. Little Xian, is this wine really as good as you say it is? Big brother is very picky when it comes to wine. I won't drink unless it's a famous wine, Chung Chumo said arrogantly. Lisa Xuan snorted in his heart. It was already good enough that the old Chung Chumo could afford wine. Chung Chumo was still panting here, but he was still his brother. He still had to give him some face. Lisa Xuan said cooperatively, Chonyo, don't worry. Choax, don't worry. When my master was alive, he loved to drink this kind of wine the most. Do you think this wine tastes good? Hearing this, Chung Chumo felt as if his heart was being scratched by 100 claws. He looked forward to this new wine even more. He had heard the legend of spiritual masterling Su from his father countless times. In his opinion, this kind of wine that even immortals loved to drink should be considered an immortal wine. Little Xian, where is this wine? Big brother can't wait. Quickly take it out and let me have a taste. Lisa Xuan shook his head and laughed. This wine is a kind of mixed wine. It hasn't been mixed yet. I plan to start mixing it when the ingredients are delivered. Chung Chumo said excitedly. That's great. Big brother has nothing to do today. I'll wait here for you to mix the wine. Haha, I can even taste the wine for you for free. This guy was really shameless. He obviously wanted to freeload the wine, but he said it in such a dignified manner. Lisa Xuan's face was full of black lines. However, he didn't know how to drink. Letting Chung Chumo taste the wine on the side was a good idea. He just hoped that this guy would be more reliable when the time came. Chapter 105. Chong and City, Li Mansion. Lisa Xuan couldn't do anything about a certain thick-skinned person who refused to leave. However, Han Yushi wasn't here yet, so he definitely couldn't brew wine. Thus, Lisa Xuan dragged Chung Chumo to the west courtyard to spar with him. F***, I'm not coming. Stop fighting. You're F***king abusing your position to avenge your personal grudge. How can this be? We agreed to spar. How can we give up halfway? Then you have to suppress your skills to the same level as mine. Otherwise, we won't fight. That makes sense. Then I'll suppress my skills to the peak of the body forging realm, just like you. 15 minutes later, F***, I'm not coming. I'm not coming even if you beat me to death. Xiao Xian, you pervert. I'll never spar with you again. Hey, Choax, I haven't seen you for a few days. Your skills have improved. Get up quickly. I'll suppress it to the middle stage of the body forging realm. Let's go again. I'm not coming. I'm not coming today. Although Lisa Xuan suppressed his skills, his swordsmanship was too advanced. Chung Chumo tried his best, but he could only be abused. In less than 15 minutes, Chung Chumo was beaten to a pulp. He lay on the ground and refused to get up no matter what. Oh wow, Brother Choax is a mangy dog. How embarrassing. Lana came to the west courtyard to play with her brother. She saw Chung Chumo lying on the ground with a bloody nose and a swollen face. The little girl didn't mind the commotion and ran over to mock Chung Chumo. Chung Chumo was embarrassed. He quickly got up from the ground and pointed at Lisa Xuan. Lana, look at how overboard your brother is. He's bullying the weak just because he's skilled in martial arts. Don't you feel ashamed to have such a brother? Of course not. Brother Chonyo, on the other hand, you can't even defeat my brother. How embarrassing. Lana jumped to Lisa Xuan's side and happily pulled on Lisa Xuan's arm. She playfully made a face at Chung Chumo. Chung Chumo instantly received 100,000 critical hits. Alone in the wind, he was in a mess. What do you mean by even your brother can't beat me? Chung Chumo really wanted to carry the little girl over and teach her the general knowledge of Jianghu. He wanted her to understand that there were not many people among the younger generation in Jianghu who could defeat Lisa Xuan. At this time, Wang Zhong walked in. After nodding at Cheng Chumo, he said to Li Zixuan, "Young master, I bought all the baijiu and put it in the cellar at home. Previously, Manager Fu sent someone to deliver some equipment. This old servant saw that young master and young master Chang were sparring, so this old servant didn't come to disturb you." Faubert was now in charge of the Strange Taste Pavilion workshop. The people in the residence usually called him Manager Fu. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Thank you, Uncle Wang." At this time, Xiaohe ran over and bowed. "Young master, Han Lijing and Miss Han are here." Li Zixuan's spirit was lifted. He quickly turned around and said to Cheng Chumo, "Brother Chonyo, you go in and tidy up. I'll go to the front yard to receive them. Now that all the ingredients for the new baijiu have been gathered, we can make the new baijiu soon." Cheng Chumo couldn't wait and waved his hand. "Go, go." When Li Zixuan arrived at the front yard, he found his father chatting enthusiastically with Han Lijing. Previously, he had heard from his father that when he was young, he had encountered a group of bandits in the Qinling Mountains. Fortunately, he had received Han Lijing's help and was able to avert the danger. After that, his friendship with Han Lijing had never broken. Madame Li was holding Han Yushi's hand and chatting happily. Li Zixuan really wanted to go over and listen to what they were talking about. They were actually chatting so happily. "Master." Iron Egg came over and greeted him. Li Zixuan nodded and walked over to Han Lijing. He cupped his hands and said, "Uncle Han, you've worked hard. But why did you come personally?" Han Lijing stood up and replied, "Young master, a thief came to our house last night and stole a jar of baijiu. This old man was worried that something would happen to Yushi on the road today, so I came over." Li Zixuan immediately stood up and asked with a frown, "What happened? Uncle Han, quickly tell me." At this time, Li Jingma also looked over with a serious expression. Han Lijing then recounted the events of last night's confrontation with the wine thief. Li Zixuan pondered for a long time, but still couldn't figure out the thief's intentions. He could only frown and say, "That's right. Uncle Han, this person's kung fu is strong, but his purpose is unknown. I'm afraid his purpose is not as simple as stealing wine. Uncle Han, you and Yushi should be careful when you go out recently." Han Lijing nodded. The few people in the house chatted for a while. Li Zixuan brought Han Yushi and Iron Egg to the west courtyard to prepare to mix the baijiu. Naturally, Han Lijing was accompanied by Li Jingma. He had to stay for lunch at noon. Cheng Chumo had just gone to get a basin of water to wash the dust off his face. At this time, he saw Li Zixuan and Han Yushi walking over side by side. The two of them were slim and graceful. The man was like a jade tree in the wind, and the woman was like a beautiful flower in the water. They were really a match made in heaven. Cheng Chumo was not a novice in love. When he saw Li Zixuan and Han Yushi looking at each other with some affection in their eyes, he knew that they must have an affair. This fool hurriedly went forward and winked at Li Zixuan. He said wretchedly, Little Xian, where did you kidnap this beautiful girl from? Why didn't you introduce her to your big brother?" Han Yushi instantly blushed and lowered her head to count ants. Li Zixuan glared at Cheng Chumo angrily. "Don't talk nonsense, Chonyo. This is Han Lijing's daughter, a master winemaker. She is the most important person for the new wine I want to mix. If you offend her, be careful that you don't have any wine to drink. Yushi, this is Cheng Chumo, the eldest son of Lu Guogong and my brother. Don't treat me like an outsider." When Cheng Chumo heard this, he wanted to give himself 2 big slaps. He quickly licked his face and said with a fawning smile, "Oh, Miss Han, don't be angry. I was just talking nonsense. It was a joke. Don't take it to heart." Han Yushi did not expect Lu Guogong's son to be such a lively clown. She quickly said, "Young Master Cheng, you are too serious. Yushi did not take what you said before to heart." Cheng Chumo breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. That's good." Xiao Xian quickly mixed the wine. "I can't wait any longer." Li Zixuan nodded and led Han Yushi and Cheng Chumo to a side room in the west courtyard. Li Zixuan handed the cocktail recipe to Han Yushi and said, "Yushi, these are the various ingredients needed for the cocktail. As for the ratio between the various ingredients, you can estimate it. First, make a cocktail with a mild temperament. Tai Dan, and I will purify the liquor with a higher concentration. Then, you can use the liquor to make some strong cocktails. One must know that the most prominent feature of cocktails was that there were many varieties and different concoctions. There were mild cocktails suitable for women, such as Angel's Kiss, Summer Night's Tenderness, Pink Beauty, and so on. There were also strong cocktails suitable for men, such as Killer, Tequila, Scorpio Palace, and so on. Currently, the materials he had were only enough to make some mild cocktails. Therefore, Li Zishuan planned to obtain some strong alcohol through distillation and use it to make strong cocktails. Han Yushi held the cocktail recipe and nodded. Then, she sat down and began to meditate on how to make it. Li Zishuan brought Iron Egg to a room inside. This room used to be a kitchen. Li Zishuan had it transformed into a brewery. The brewing equipment sent by Faubert was also in place at this time. Now, everything was ready. All that was left was the east wind. Chapter 106. Li Residence, West Courtyard. In a makeshift workshop, Iron Egg was making a fire. Li Zishuan was pouring white wine into the distillation pot and paying attention to the temperature in the pot. Master, can we get stronger wine if we heat it up? Iron Egg asked curiously. Li Zishuan saw that he had time now, so he decided to teach his cheap disciple some scientific knowledge. Of course we can't get stronger wine just by heating it. Iron Egg, have you boiled water before? Yes, of course I have. Then have you noticed that after boiling water, if you continue to boil it, the water in the pot will become less and less? Yes, master, it's true. Li Zishuan nodded and continued. Actually, the reason why the wine we are drinking is not strong is because there is too much water and too little alcohol. Oh, master calls the intoxicating thing in the wine alcohol. What master needs to do now is to steam out the water in the wine to make the wine more concentrated. Do you understand? Iron Egg nodded thoughtfully and then asked doubtfully, Then master, will you steam out the alcohol as well? Li Zishuan praised. Iron Egg, you asked a good question. This is the most important part of distilling wine. In fact, compared to water, alcohol is more volatile at a lower temperature. Well, in other words, if we steam them together, the alcohol will be the first to come out. Then we add a pipe with cold water to the back. The alcohol will become liquid when it is cold. Do you understand? The boiling point of alcohol is around 75 degrees. It can only be liquefied when the temperature drops below 75 degrees. At around 50 degrees, the evaporation rate is very fast. Therefore, the condensed alcohol must be cooled to below 50 degrees in the condensing pipe. Generally, it will only flow out when it is cooled to around 30 degrees. Of course, there are also ways to cool it at a lower temperature. Iron Egg shook his head in confusion and said, Master, Iron Egg understands what you said, but when you said that the evaporated alcohol will turn into liquid when it enters the pipe, this Iron Egg doesn't quite understand. Li Zishuan patted his forehead and helplessly explained to Iron Egg that the solution vaporizes when it is hot and the steam liquefies when it is cold. Iron Egg finally understood. Okay, don't be distracted. You still have a lot to learn in the future. Now, focus on the fire and pay attention to the temperature. Yes, master. Half an hour later, the condenser's thin pipe finally began to slowly flow of concentrated liquor. Suddenly, a strong aroma filled the entire room. Wow, it smells so good. Master, this wine smells much better than the wine my father usually drinks. Iron Egg sniffed at the side and said excitedly. Li Zishuan smiled faintly, not denying it. Little Xian, what kind of liquor is this? It smells so good. Chung Chumo, who was outside the room, smelled the strong aroma of the liquor and immediately rushed in. This guy didn't know how to write the word polite. As he spoke, he came up to take away the wine jar under the condenser. Li Zishuan hurriedly stopped him. Stop! This first distilled liquor is poisonous. You can't drink it, ugly ox. This guy really didn't care about his life. Although the first distilled liquor had a high alcohol concentration and smelled very good, it contained a large amount of aldehydes, esters, ketones, and other substances with low boiling points. Drinking these substances could cause blindness or even death. Chung Chumo said in disbelief. How can there be poison in the liquor? Don't lie to me. Hurry up and let me taste it. Don't be so stingy. Li Zixuan was too lazy to pay attention to this guy who didn't care about his life. He saw that more than 2 caddies of the first liquor had flowed out, so he replaced it with an empty jar. He took the jar with the first liquor and prepared to pour it out. Cheng Chimo saw through his intention and was anxious. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't beat Li Zixuan, he would have definitely snatched it. Li Zixuan poured the first liquor in the courtyard. Cheng Chimo stood there reluctantly and sniffed the remaining liquor aroma in the air. He muttered with a look of pity, "Wastrel, wastrel." Li Zixuan ignored him and turned back to the room. 2 hours later, Li Zixuan came out with a jar of high alcohol concentration and placed it on the table next to Han Yushi. He looked at Han Yushi and asked, "Yushi, how is it? Have you figured out the ratio of the ingredients?" Han Yushi nodded and pushed a glass of red wine over. She said, "Young master, after many attempts, I found that the wine with this combination is easier to drink. Try it." Li Zixuan looked at the wine and hesitated. Han Yushi smiled and said, "Young master, don't worry. This wine won't get you drunk." Li Zixuan then picked up the wine glass and took a sip. There was the sourness and sweetness of the mountain fruit in his mouth. After tasting it carefully, there was a faint wine fragrance, mellow and sweet. Li Zixuan nodded with satisfaction. Han Yushi was indeed a genius in the field of winemaking. He only gave her a list of ingredients, but she actually figured out the ratio of various ingredients by herself. She was really amazing. Well, not bad, not bad. Yushi, you are really amazing. Just mix according to this ratio. When Han Yushi heard Li Zixuan's praise, she immediately felt that her hard work was worth it. She quickly agreed in a low voice and continued to mix the wine. At this time, Cheng Chimo walked in and looked at Li Zixuan bitterly. Then he suddenly caught a glimpse of the cocktail that Han Yushi had made. He immediately became spirited and shouted, "Miss Han, is this the new wine you made? Quickly let me, a wine taster, taste it for you." Han Yushi couldn't help but laugh. Li Zixuan couldn't do anything about this thick-skinned person. Cheng Chimo poured himself a glass of cocktail, then held in his hand and praised, "Well, just by looking at the appearance, I can tell that it's not bad. Miss Han, Shaoxian is really lucky to be able to find you." These words were a little ambiguous. Han Yushi's pretty face blushed. Li Zixuan glared at him and said angrily, "Hurry up and drink. Even good wine can't stop your mouth." Cheng Chimo laughed, picked up the wine, took a sip, smacked his lips, and then drank it all in one gulp. Cheng Chimo sighed and said, "Miss Han, the taste of your wine is very novel. I have never drunk such wine before. Well, anyway, it's very delicious, but it's a little boring. It can't be compared to the wine that Shaoxian poured out just now." Han Yushi smiled and said, "Young Master Cheng, this wine can also be matched with stronger wine. Please wait a moment." When Li Zixuan saw that Han Yushi had started to mix the wine again, he pulled Cheng Chimo out and said, "Chonyo, come over and help me carry some things." "Well, don't you know how to ask the servants in your house to help you? Have you ever heard that if you want to drink good wine, then hurry up and follow me?" Cheng Chimo could only follow unhappily. Li Zixuan dared to treat Lu Guogong's son as a servant. Li Zixuan asked Cheng Chimo to come over to help him carry a bag of saltpeter. Although it wasn't heavy, it was free labor. It would be a waste if he didn't use it. He didn't want this guy to be bored and picky again. Last night, Li Zixuan asked his father to help him purchase a few saltpeter mines. He didn't know how his father was doing. Li Zixuan wanted to get some ice cubes. If he didn't add ice cubes to the strong cocktail, it would burn the stomach. With ice cubes, it would be more comfortable to drink. Chapter 107. By the time Li Zixuan and Cheng Chimo returned, Han Yushi had already prepared a pot of strong cocktail. Cheng Chimo could smell the aroma of the wine from afar. He threw the bag of saltpeter onto Li Zixuan's shoulder and walked in impatiently. Li Zixuan really wanted to pull this guy over and give him a good beating. "Hey, Miss Han, is this the strong new wine you were talking about? It smells so good. Wait for me, old Cheng, to taste it." When Li Zixuan came in, he saw Cheng Chimo pouring him a full glass of wine. Then he couldn't wait to raise his head and pour it into his mouth. Lisa Schwan couldn't stop him in time. This was strong wine. Sure enough, after drinking a glass of wine, Cheng Chimo's neck turned red to the tips of his ears. He quickly put down the glass, bent down, and started coughing violently. His face suddenly turned as red as a monkey's butt. Cough, cough, little Xian, this wine is really, really strong. But I old Chang like it. Ha, a cough, cough. Lisa Schwan and Han Yushi looked at each other, speechless at this joker. Inside a room in Yunshi restaurant. Young master, this is the wine that Flying Snake took from Han Tianhu's house. This subordinate has seen it, and it's exactly the same as the one they sold to our restaurant. The young master seemed to be in a good mood today. After hearing the middle-aged man's report, he turned around and opened the wine jar. He sniffed the fruit wine inside and said, "This wine tastes good. The taste is not bad. But if Lisa Schwan wants to make a comeback with just this mountain fruit wine, isn't it a little too whimsical?" The middle-aged man respectfully said, "Young master, you're right. You're right, young master. Now that our Yunshi restaurant has invited Xia Shengyuan to cook, our business has become even more booming. I've counted the number of customers that came this morning. It's almost the same as the number of customers that came in a day. Furthermore, the customers who ate here were full of praise for Xia Shengyuan's culinary skills. This subordinate believes that it won't be long before our Yunshi restaurant becomes the #1 restaurant in Chang'an." The young noble proudly chuckled and said, Not bad. Now that Xia Shengyuan has come to our side, release his granddaughter. Only then can he work wholeheartedly for our Yunshi pavilion." "Yes, young master." The young master nodded. After a moment, he asked, "Did anything happen to the flying snake at the Han village yesterday?" The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Don't worry, young master. Flying Snake's illusory cloud movement technique is unparalleled in Jianghu. Looking at the current Jianghu, there are not many people who can catch up with him. However, when he left last night, he was discovered by Han Tianhu. This subordinate told him not to cause any trouble, so he immediately escaped without exposing his identity." The young master nodded when he heard that and said, "You did well. This is indeed not the time to complicate matters. However, this Han Tianhu was quite capable to be able to detect this. You can't underestimate him in the future. You can't make the same mistake twice." "Yes, young master. You've been doing well recently. This young master has seen it all. When I win the clan competition and take control, I will definitely treat you well." After giving a slap, he would give a carrot. The young master understood this principle. The middle-aged man happily said, "Thank you, young master." Yongle Lane, Li residence. In the front hall, it was lunchtime. A few maids brought in all kinds of delicacies and placed them on the dining table. Li Jingma invited everyone to take a seat. Of course, Cheng Chimo, who was slightly tipsy from drinking in the backyard, was among them. This fellow had originally come to freeload. Now that he saw such good wine here, how could he still walk? Thus, the Li residents had an extra pair of chopsticks for lunch. "Father, Uncle Han, how can it not be good wine when there's good food? Wait a moment, I'll bring the new wine that we just made this morning for you to try." Li Zixuan nodded. Li Jingma then went to the west courtyard to get the wine. Han Lijing looked at his daughter in surprise. He said in surprise, "Yushi, you've made the wine so quickly?" Han Yushi nodded and said, "We've already made the initial mix. I'll try again in the afternoon to see if there's a better mix ratio." A moment later, Li Zixuan came back with 2 jugs of wine. "Xian, it's not like we don't have wine at home. Why do you have to make the wine yourself?" Madame Li saw that her son had been busy the entire morning just to make wine. She felt a little sorry for him. In her opinion, the family had endless money to spend, and she didn't need her son to think of ways to earn money. Now that her son had been conferred a title and had status, he only needed to enjoy life at home. There was no need to do all this. Li Zixuan knew that his mother felt sorry for him. She wanted him to be a second-generation rich kid who just ate and waited for death. However, in this era, there were no cell phones, no television, and no computers. Idling every day would probably make him sick. He had no choice but to find something for himself to do. "Mother, the wine that I made is not available on the market. You like it once you try it. Madame Li hurriedly waved her hand and said with a smile, Xian'er, I don't drink wine. Mother, don't worry. This wine won't make you drunk. The wine that I poured for you is specially made for people who don't know how to drink. Li Zishuan said as he brought over a glass cup. After filling it to the brim, he brought it to his mother. In this era, although the glass-making process was not mature, it was still possible to buy some glass-making products from merchants at a high price. The Li family was a wealthy family, so it was natural for them to have such luxury goods. Madame Li was originally wondering why there would be wine specially made for people who didn't know how to drink wine. However, when she saw the bright red mixed wine in the glass cup in front of her, her gaze was instantly attracted by the beautiful color. Xian'er, what wine is this? The color is really beautiful. Mother, try it first. I'll tell you later. This child, Madame Li smiled helplessly. She picked up the wine cup, opened her red lips, and tried to take a sip. She slowly swallowed, then closed her eyes and savored it carefully. After a while, she opened her eyes and praised, Xian'er, this wine is really good. It's soft and mellow, and it leaves a fragrance in the mouth. It has the sweetness of the mountain fruit and a hint of the fragrance of white wine, but it's not as spicy as white wine. It's very suitable for women to drink. Xian'er, quickly tell me the name of this wine. Li Zishuan smiled and said, Ha ha. Mother, I named this wine Gentle Village. What do you think, Mother? Madame Li nodded in agreement and said, not bad. This name is very appropriate. Mother, Lana wants to drink it too. When Lana saw the brightly colored wine and heard her mother praising it, the little girl immediately begged with her eyes wide open. No, Lana, you're still young. You should drink the mountain fruit wine. Li Zishuan was the first to object. Although the alcohol content of this cocktail was very low, it was still wine. Lana was still young, and drinking alcohol was not good for her body. Stinky brother. Lana pouted and looked unhappy. Madame Li rubbed her little head, feeling a little funny. Father, Uncle Han, this is another type of wine. It's specially prepared for you. It might be a little stronger, so you should drink it slowly. She was still a child, and her temper came and went quickly. Li Zishuan ignored the spoiled Lana and picked up the other pot of wine, pouring a cup for his father and Han Lijing. What kind of strong wine have I not drunk before? Xian'er, you're making it sound so serious. Father Li did not take his son's words to heart. Han Lijing saw that the top of the cup was emitting traces of cold air, and there were a few pieces of ice in the cup. He instantly exclaimed, Young master, why are there ice cubes in the cup? At this time, Li Jingma also noticed the abnormality in the cup. He was also a little surprised. Xian'er, we don't have an ice cellar in the residence, right? Where did you get these ice cubes? Cheng Chumo calmly ate and drank on the side, not finding it strange at all. He secretly despised the two of them for making a fuss over nothing. This fool had completely forgotten that when he saw Li Zishuan produce a few ice cubes from the water in the west courtyard, his expression was much more surprised than Li Jingma and Han Lijing. Father, Uncle Han, this is the method of making ice that I learned from my master. Try this wine first. Only then did the two of them suppress the surprise in their hearts. They picked up the wine cup and took a light sniff. Immediately, an extremely strong aroma of wine and mountain fruits entered their nostrils. Han Lijing praised Li Jingma. Master, just by smelling it, I can tell that this wine is not ordinary. Li Jingma also nodded in agreement. Of course, he had this bit of knowledge. The two of them put away their contempt and took a sip. They could not help but exhale comfortably. Amazing, this old man has drunk wine all my life, but I've never drunk such a strong and mellow wine. It's really too satisfying. Li Jingma could not help but pat the table in praise. Han Lijing also sighed and said, The fragrance of this mountain fruit has become more mellow after being fermented by the strong wine. The coldness of the ice can also suppress the spiciness of the strong wine. Young master, the wine that you have mixed is really wonderful. Cheng Chumo also poured a cup. He had not drunk enough in the west courtyard just now. At this time, after he heard Han Lijing sigh, he immediately gave a thumbs up and shouted, Yes, that's the feeling. Han Lijing, you said what I wanted to say. Mrs. Li and Han Yushi quickly covered their mouths and laughed. Li Zixuan automatically filtered Cheng Chumo's shameless words and smiled at Han Lijing. This wine is all thanks to Yushi. I only know the ingredients in it. The ratio of each ingredient was researched by Yushi. At this time, Mrs. Li also said from the side, Han Lijing, you have a good daughter. Yushi is not only dignified and beautiful, but she is also clever and skilled. She knows everything. Whoever can marry such a beautiful woman in the future will have to cultivate 8 lifetimes of good fortune. She had always been very satisfied with Han Yushi. She was charming and had a good figure. She was good at giving birth. Unfortunately, her son was a blockhead. After so long, he still had not taken the girl down. She could only be anxious at the side. When Han Yushi heard Mrs. Li praising her, she was shy and happy. She lowered her head and did not dare to speak. Han Lijing quickly said, Old madam, you are too kind. At this time Li Jingma asked, Xian'er, what is the name of this wine? Li Zixuan replied, Father, I named it Drunken Immortal. What do you think? Li Jingma pondered for a moment and nodded. Drunken Immortal, it is very appropriate. This wine has a strong aftertaste and can easily intoxicate people. Xian'er, a few days ago you told me that you wanted to make a new thing and sell it in the Drunken Immortal house to compete with the Yunshi house. Was this wine you were talking about? Li Zixuan replied, Yes, this is the land of tenderness and the Drunken Immortal. Father, what do you think are our chances of winning if we use these 2 wines to compete with the Yunshi house? Li Jingma stroked his beard, pondered for a moment, and then said with unusual certainty, In my opinion, once these 2 new wines, which have never appeared in the Tang Empire before, are released, the whole Chang and city will be shaken. Our Drunken Immortal house has a 90% chance of winning. Chapter 108. Li Zixuan was even more confident now that the intoxicated immortal and gentle village had received everyone's approval. However, Li Zixuan's next words immediately poured a bucket of cold water over his head. Xian'er, the imperial court has regulations that forbid private workshops from making wine as they please. Due to the extreme shortage of food during the Tang Dynasty, the imperial court had placed extremely strict restrictions on private winemaking. Private winemaking without a permit from the imperial court would result in confiscation and imprisonment. When Li Zixuan heard his father say this, he was instantly dumbfounded. Only then did he remember that there was indeed such a saying in ancient times. But on second thought, what he was doing was concocting wine, so it shouldn't be within the limits of the imperial court, right? Father, this child's wine is blended with wine sold on the market. It shouldn't be considered private winemaking, right? Li Jingma thought for a moment before shaking his head. Xian'er, although this is barely acceptable, it's inevitable that people will use this as an excuse in the future. You have a noble title now, so it's not good to lose the big picture for a small gain. Li Jingma cautiously maintained his point of view. He felt that wealth was far less important than the stability of a noble title. What's so difficult about this? Little Xian, our family used to have a winemaking workshop that has everything needed for winemaking. That workshop has a winemaking permit from the imperial court. Little Xian, why don't you move your new winemaking workshop there? Cheng Chumo saw that Li Zixuan was in a difficult position and suddenly had an idea. He slapped his thigh excitedly. If Li Zixuan agreed, then their Cheng family would never lack wine in the future. Now that he had drunk the intoxicated immortal, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to drink any other wine. Li Zixuan's eyes lit up. Cheng Chumo was usually quite amusing, but at crucial moments, he was quite reliable. However, he was still somewhat hesitant. Chonyo, your idea is good, but I don't know what Uncle Cheng is thinking. If Uncle Cheng is willing, our family can fork out money to buy your winemaking workshop. Hey, we brothers don't need to talk about money. I'll go back and tell my father. My father will definitely agree. Cheng Chumo was thinking about his family's winery. Since it had been in a slump, he might as well give it to Li Zixuan to make wine. When the time came, not only would Li Zixuan owe him a favor, but the Cheng Chumo also believed that his father would definitely agree. Lisa Schwan muttered. Of course you can't refuse to pay. How about this? Your family uses this workshop to enter the partnership, and I'll give you 10% of the new wine shares. How about that? No matter which era it was, the winemaking industry was a profitable business. This was especially true for monopolized wines. The profits were even more shocking. For example, Moutai in his previous life had a gross profit margin of 97%. The company's share price had once risen to more than 500, becoming the most expensive stock in China's stock market. Tenderness and Drunken Immortal undoubtedly held a monopoly in the Tang Dynasty. It was very difficult for others to imitate them. In the future, the profits from these two wines would undoubtedly be astronomical. Therefore, giving the Cheng family 10% of the shares was definitely generous. Cheng Chimo could also see the huge profits from this new wine. He clapped his hands excitedly and said, "Since Xiao Xian is so generous, I won't refuse. I'll go back and tell my father in the afternoon." After the matter was settled, everyone ate and drank freely. After the meal, the guests and the host enjoyed themselves to the fullest. Lisa Schwan asked someone to send the drunk Cheng Chimo back. He, Han Yushi, and Iron Egg returned to the west courtyard to continue mixing wine. "Io, young master, where did you drink so much?" In Duke Lu's residence, housekeeper Liang saw Cheng Chimo staggering back with two servants. He hurriedly went up to support Cheng Chimo. The two servants said goodbye to housekeeper Liang and left. I'm not drunk. Uncle Liang. You. Cheng Chimo's mouth and eyes were crooked. He pushed housekeeper Liang and spoke nonsense. At this moment, Cheng Yaojin came back from outside. He saw Cheng Chimo as if he was fished out of a wine jar. He frowned and said, "Where did this little bastard drink so much wine? Did he go out to fool around again?" Housekeeper Liang hurriedly replied, "Master, I don't think so. Just now I saw the two servants who sent the young master back. They seemed to be from Lisa Schwan's residence." Cheng Yaojin glared and said angrily, "This little bastard went to Xiao Xian's house to eat and drink and didn't invite me. How dare he?" After scolding, Cheng Yaojin was still angry and kicked Cheng Chimo twice. Recently, the price of chicken seedlings in Chong and had skyrocketed. Even the Duke Lu's residence could not support it. However, Cheng Yaojin was a man of his word. He said that he would buy 30,000, and he would buy 30,000, not one less. As a result, the meals in the Duke Lu's residence were tasteless, not to mention drinking wine. Cheng Chimo was still in a daze when he felt someone kicking him. He immediately cursed, which little bastard dares to kick this young master. I will beat you to death, you little tramp. Housekeeper Liang almost burst out laughing when he heard this. However, when he saw Cheng Yaojin raise his hand to beat Cheng Chimo, he hurriedly stopped him. Master, the young master is drunk and talking nonsense. Please don't bother with him. Help this little bastard back to his room. When he sobers up, I'll deal with him." Cheng Yaojin snorted angrily and left hatefully. Today, the Curious Pavilion was a different scene. Yesterday, Sun Huayuan asked someone to copy a few hundred copies of the second-generation scooter's promotional tabloids. Then, he sent a servant to deliver these tabloids to the members of the Curious Pavilion. At that time, when those people applied for membership cards, they all left their addresses. It had to be said that Sun Huayuan's move was somewhat immoral. Those who could afford a scooter were generally from well-off families. Their children were more or less literate. When these children saw the tabloids of the second-generation scooter, they thought that the scooters they bought before were already very fun. Wouldn't the second-generation scooter be even more amazing? Moreover, if their children all played with the second-generation scooter in the future, how embarrassing would it be if they played with the first-generation scooter? Therefore, many parents were disturbed by their children early in the morning. They were all cursing the Curious Pavilion in their hearts. They were a professional scammer. One scam after another. However, complaining was useless. The children at home didn't want to listen. They could only obediently go to the Curious Pavilion to buy the second-generation scooter for their children. However, this time, the Curious Pavilion was more humane. They actually arranged 8 channels for members. Those who had membership cards quickly bought them. When they saw the long line for non-members, those who bought the scooter inexplicably felt a sense of superiority. In their hearts, they felt that the membership card was worth it. This was like the difference between R&B players and civilian players in a game. R&B players used money to buy time, while civilian players could only spend a lot of time grinding for equipment. Of course, the Curious Pavilion's unreasonable system, where the rich were the bosses, also caused some people to protest. However, most people also chose to get a membership card. It wasn't expensive anyway. In a short period of time, the number of members of the Curious Pavilion increased dramatically. Chapter 109. Evening, Duke Lu's mansion. In the side hall. Father, that's all. I've told you everything I need to say. Chung Chumo rubbed his buttocks and said with a thin face. He recalled that when he had just woken up, his father looked at him as if he wanted to eat him. He was a little scared. He still didn't understand why his father wanted to kick him as soon as he saw him wake up. If it wasn't for housekeeper Liang stopping him from behind, his buttocks would have been kicked to mush. Could it be that he went out to drink and didn't bring his father along, so his father was angry? Chung Chumo, who really couldn't find a reason, could only curse in his heart. Of course, this guy didn't remember that when he was drunk, he called his father a little bastard and a little tramp. If he knew, he definitely wouldn't dare to stay at home. Chung Yaojin sat on the stool, carelessly, looking at Chung Chumo with a bit of killing intent. After listening to his son talk about the Chung family's workshop being given to Li Zishuan to brew new wine, he asked, "Is the land of warmth and drunken immortal brewed by little Xian really that delicious?" As soon as he heard about the drunken immortal, Chung Chumo's buttocks immediately stopped hurting. He excitedly slapped his thigh and shouted, "Father, you don't know, but the drunken immortal is strong and mellow. It's really too strong. I've never drunk such strong wine before. Moreover, there are ice cubes in it. The cold air of the ice cubes is just enough to suppress the spiciness of the wine. It's really too damn refreshing to drink." Father, what's wrong with you?" As Chung Chumo spoke, he felt that the surrounding air was a little cold. He looked carefully and found that his father was looking at him with a somewhat unfriendly gaze. Chung Yaojin stood up and slapped the back of Chung Chumo's head. "You little bastard, you secretly drank good wine without thinking about your father. You're not allowed to eat tonight. You'll reflect on your mistakes behind closed doors." Chung Yaojin said hatefully and was about to leave. When he heard Chung Chumo describe the wine to the heavens, he almost drooled. But the more he wanted to taste it, the angrier he was. This stupid son of his was too unfilial. Chung Chumo rubbed the back of his head. He thought to himself that he was stupid, and his father still hit him on the head every day. No wonder none of the sons in the Chung family were smart. When he saw that Chung Yaojin was about to leave, he hurriedly asked, "Hey, father, should we take out our family's winery and cooperate with Shaoxian?" "Nonsense, of course we have to cooperate." Chung Yaojin, who had just walked out of the door, grumbled. The wine that even Li Zishuan's master liked to drink would definitely be popular in the whole of Chong, and when it was sold, 10% of the shares would be a lot of money, far more than the value of their winery. No matter how they thought about it, their family had gained a big advantage in this business. In the afternoon, Han Yushi mixed the wine with Li Zishuan for a while. After finally determining the best ratio of various ingredients, she went home with Han Lijing. Li Zishuan was a little reluctant. He felt that when he was with Han Yushi, time passed too quickly. But she was a girl, and it was not appropriate for her to stay in his house without special circumstances. Li Zishuan could only silently watch Han Yushi's back and sigh alone. Alas, although the beauty was beautiful, she was still not his. Li Zishuan really wanted to sing the song, "Love You Is Hard to Say" at this moment. It was difficult for him to confess to a beauty in person, who asked him to be an otaku. If they had mobile phones to chat with each other, Li Zishuan would definitely have the courage to take the initiative to pick up girls. Mrs. Li saw her son's dejected look and quickly pushed Li Jingma's arm to make him look over. Li Jingma asked softly, "Madam, what's wrong with Xin?" Mrs. Li rolled her eyes at him and said softly, Are you stupid? Can't you see that Xian has grown up and wants to get married? Li Jingma's jaw dropped when he heard that. After a while, he said in shock, Madam, you're saying that our son and Han, you just realized it now? Shoo, lower your voice. Our son's skin is very tender. Mrs. Li was speechless at her husband's EQ. She secretly wondered if her son was so slow in the field of relationships. Could it be that he inherited it from his father? Yeah, Dad, Mom, what are you guys talking about? Li Zixuan turned around and saw his parents mumbling something to each other. He couldn't help but ask curiously. Ahem, it's nothing. Today's weather is really good. Xian, go do your thing. Li Jingma coughed dryly and pulled Mrs. Li to the east courtyard, leaving behind a confused Li Zixuan. In the east courtyard's living room. Madam, you're saying that Xian has taken a liking to Han Yushi? Li Jingma sat on a stool and asked with a concerned expression. How could it be fake? Only a blockhead like you wouldn't be able to see it. I'm guessing that all the servants in the manor have seen it. The old man Li laughed awkwardly. Mrs. Li rolled her eyes and said with a sigh, Old master, our Xian isn't young anymore. It's time to talk about marriage. A few days ago, Xian was conferred a noble title. Many matchmakers heard the news and came to talk about marriage. I didn't dare to casually agree. Xian is a very opinionated child. As his parents, we can't just randomly matchmake him. Li Jingma nodded in agreement. Madam, you're right. According to what you said, you're planning to help Xian go to Han Lijing's house to talk about marriage? Mrs. Li said angrily, Xian takes after you in this aspect. If he continues to dawdle like this, when will we be able to hold a fat grandson? Seeing that other children are already married at this age, how can I not be anxious as a mother? Li Jingma said awkwardly, What does this have to do with me? Mrs. Li said angrily, How? Is it none of your business? Back then, how long did you make me wait before you married me? If it wasn't for my mother asking someone to remind your father, were you planning to wait until I'm old before marrying me? Li Jingma immediately felt ashamed and hurriedly interrupted. Ahem, madam, we're talking about Xian? Don't stray from the topic. Let's continue talking about Xian. Oomph. Mrs. Li snorted in dissatisfaction and continued. So, I'm planning to ask a matchmaker to ask Han Lijing's opinion in a few days. I see that Miss Han doesn't hate our Xian, so this marriage is more or less possible. Li Jingma said hesitantly, Madam, is this Miss Han really suitable for Xian? After all, she's just... Mrs. Li didn't wait for old man Li to finish and slammed the table. Her phoenix eyes were filled with anger. Just what? Just a peasant girl? You just become a baron's father and you're already having prejudice against family backgrounds? Then, one day, will you chase me out of the house and marry a rich family's daughter? Li Jingma's face was covered in sweat. He was flustered and hurriedly said, Madam, your husband definitely didn't mean that. Definitely not. Your husband also thinks that Han Lijing's daughter is quite good. Madam is really wise to let you make all the decisions. That's more like it. Mrs. Li sat down in satisfaction, but the corner of her mouth raised into an almost undetectable smile. This book was very difficult to write because swordsmen aren't full-time workers and are very busy every day. But even under these busy circumstances, swordsmen still manage to never stop updating. While others are sleeping, I'm writing. Swordsmen are using their health in exchange for a wonderful story. It's going to be published tomorrow. I hope that you can subscribe 2 chapters to support it. If there aren't many people reading the original version, it's easy for it to be unpublished. Piracy is the main reason why there are so many unpublished books. I hope that everyone can come to QQ or Chidian to support Yiha. Actually, it's not expensive. It only costs you 20 cents a day. If it falls on the ground, you probably won't pick it up. Do you think that swordsmen can't even exchange it for 20 cents of encouragement? In addition, it's actually beneficial for you to read the original version. Chivalrous Assassin would always send it out without checking it because he's in a rush. After sending it out, he would check and correct the typos. After I've corrected it, the original website will show that there are no typos. On the other hand, the pirated website won't update it. They'll only grab the first version and won't continue to update it. This will greatly affect your reading experience. Also, reading the original version will allow you to interact with swordsmen. If you have any characters that you want, you can tell them in the comment section. If the swordsmen feel that it's okay, they will add it into the book. The price you need to pay for it is only 20 cents a day. You can't even bear to spend 20 cents? Swordsmen really want to write this book well and finish it. Because I like some of the characters in the book very much, I sincerely hope that readers can come to QQ or Qidian to support the original version. Swordsmen will definitely repay you with more wonderful stories. Chapter 110. The next day, early in the morning, Chang Chumo, like an idiot, stepped on a skateboard that was specially developed for young people by the Strange Interest Pavilion Workshop and wobbled to Lisa Schwann's door. His flashy appearance attracted a lot of attention along the way. Of course, he didn't buy this skateboard from the Strange Taste Pavilion. Firstly, Chang Chumo didn't have much pocket money right now. Secondly, he didn't have the patience to wait in line. He got this skateboard through the back door. Now, everyone in Chang'an City knew that he and Lisa Schwann were so close that they almost wore a pair of pants together. Therefore, Sun Huayuan directly gave him a skateboard. This guy obviously forgot the pain after the scar healed. Last time, he fell so miserably on the skateboard. Now, he immediately started to walk around on the skateboard again. Lisa Schwann saw Chang Chumo in the yard with the skateboard. For a moment, he almost thought that he had traveled back in time. Chang Chumo's appearance was really too out of place. Hee, Xiao Xian, I realize that the skateboard you're selling this time is better than the one you gave me last time. Chang Chumo proudly patted the skateboard in his hands. Now that he had this thing, he didn't even want to ride a horse when he went out. Obviously, this thing was much more convenient than riding a horse. Lisa Schwann curled his lips. This time, the skateboard from the Strange Taste Pavilion was connected by roller bearings. Of course, it was better than the one he took out last time. Chonyo, you're using this. Aren't you afraid of falling again? Lisa Schwann joked. Hee, Xiao Xian, you're underestimating me. How could I fall twice in the same place? Anyway, bragging didn't cost him anything. So Chang Chumo decided to show off. Lisa Schwann shook his head and ignored him. Chang Chumo remembered his purpose for coming here today. He said, Little Xian, my father agreed yesterday. The winery is yours. You can use the craftsmen inside without worry. They have all signed a contract with my family. They won't sell out our secret recipes for no reason. Lisa Schwann was overjoyed. That's great. I'll ask Faubert to make a dozen more sets of distillation and purification equipment. We'll move all the winemaking equipment over there as soon as possible. We'll try to officially start mixing tenderness and drunken immortal in large quantities within the next 2 days. He was indeed worried about the confidentiality of the new wine's formula. Now, that Chang Chumo could solve the problem, it was for the best. Last night, his father had also told him that he had already bought 2 saltpeter mines. Now, he didn't have to worry about ice cubes anymore. Chang Chumo quickly nodded his head like a chick pecking at rice. Yes. We have to do this as soon as possible. Little Xian, how much do you want to set the price for this wine? Chang Chumo couldn't wait for Lisa Schwann to go to his winery right now. That way, when he and his father wanted a drink, they could directly go to the winery and get a pot of wine. Drinking their own wine didn't cost them any money, right? Lisa Schwann had already considered the price of the new wine. Last night, he had learned about the wine market of the Tang Dynasty from Li Jingma. The most expensive wine of this era belonged to Jianan Braised Spring and Yingzhou Rich Water. A bushel would cost more than 100,000 yuan. This wasn't an exaggeration. There was a shortage of food in the Tang Dynasty. Wine was generally expensive, and famous wines were even more so. Li Bai once wrote in A Difficult Journey, a bushel of golden wine is worth 10,000 yuan, while a jade plate is worth 10,000 yuan. Jianan Braised Spring was a famous wine. A bushel of wine in the Tang Dynasty was equivalent to 10 liters, and 1 liter was equivalent to 1.25 caddies. The price of a caddy of Jianan Braised Spring was about 600 to 700 yuan in modern times. Of course, this was only based on the exchange rate of copper coins to gold and silver. However, there was a problem that couldn't be ignored. The prices of goods in the early Tang Dynasty were extremely cheap. A bushel of rice could be bought for 3 to 4 copper coins. If it was converted to gold in modern times, 1 yuan could buy 6 kilograms of rice. Therefore, if one were to compare the prices of the time, the copper coins used for 500 grams of Jianan braised spring were equivalent to the purchasing power of 15,000 yuan in modern times. Only a tycoon like Li Bai would be able to afford it. His good friend Du Fu, in his later years, when he was poor and destitute, he could only drink 300 copper coins a bucket of inferior quality wine. Otherwise, how could Du Fu write a poem like "Come early, drink a bucket of wine"? Have 300 copper coins? Li Zishuan pondered for a moment and said, "Chonyo, I plan to set the price at 2 strings per liter for our tender village. I plan to set the price at 5 strings per liter for the immortal drunken wine. What do you think?" The alcohol concentration in the tender village was lower, so it could be sold at a cheaper price. However, the immortal drunken wine used distilled and concentrated alcohol. Just the cost alone was much higher, so the price couldn't be cheap. These words were earth-shattering. Cheng Chumo opened his eyes wide and said in disbelief, "I say, Xiaoxian, have you gone crazy thinking about money? 5 strings per liter? Why don't you go rob a bank? Who would be willing to drink such expensive wine?" Li Zishuan shook his head and said, "Don't tell me you think that the immortal drunken wine isn't worth that much." Upon hearing this, Cheng Chumo couldn't help but recall the taste of the immortal drunken wine. The moment he recalled it, his gluttonous bug was hooked. He smacked his lips and said with difficulty, "The taste of the immortal drunken wine is indescribable. I'm afraid that we won't be able to find such a good wine in Tang. However, the price of 5 strings per liter is too high. Ordinary people really can't afford to drink it." Li Zishuan smiled and said, "This wine is not for ordinary people to drink in the first place. Moreover, the wine used in the immortal drunken wine is a famous wine that has been concentrated several times. 3 caddies of Jianan roasted spring is only enough to condense 1 caddy of the raw spirit we need. After mixing in other ingredients, the cost of 1 liter of immortal drunken wine is more than 3 strings of cash. Therefore, the price of 5 strings per liter isn't expensive." After Li Zishuan said this, Cheng Chumo understood. He quickly said, "It seems that it's not expensive. Let's set it at this price." The Cheng family also had 10% shares in the winery. The more the immortal drunken wine made, the more money they would get. After agreeing on the price of the new wine with Cheng Chumo, Li Zishuan sent someone to inform Fauber of the workshop to get another 20 sets of distillation equipment. Then, he brought Cheng Chumo to the Drunken Immortal Inn. The conditions to launch the new wine were ripe. He needed to inform Manager Lu. Cheng Chumo followed Li Zishuan because he wanted to have a free meal at the Drunken Immortal Inn. "Uncle Lu, why is it so quiet here today?" Li Zishuan walked into the Drunken Immortal Inn and was shocked to find that there were only 3 or 4 tables of people eating in the main hall on the first floor. "Sigh, young master, you don't know. Although the Yunshi restaurant launched the nibbling chicken to compete with us in the past, there were still some diners who were willing to stay and eat at our Drunken Immortal Inn. But yesterday, they found an imperial chef and launched many famous imperial dishes. Our already few diners became even fewer. Now, those who are willing to eat here are those who live close to us." Manager Lu frowned and sighed as he poured out his grievances. The Drunken Immortal Inn's performance was not good. He was somewhat ashamed to meet his boss. Li Zishuan patted Manager Lu's shoulder with a smile and comforted, "Uncle Lu, don't worry. I brought a few new things to the Drunken Immortal Inn. The Drunken Immortal Inn will soon become popular again." Cheng Chumo, this clown, also winked and said, That's right. Shopkeeper Lu, you can rest assured. I, Old Cheng, guarantee that in 2 days, the Drunken Immortal restaurant will be hard to find. Ha! Apart from Li Zishuan, perhaps no one was more confident than Cheng Chumo in the land of warmth and immortal Drunken Immortal Inn. Chapter 111. Drunken Immortal Restaurant. Cheng Chumo sat alone in the main hall of the first floor, waiting for something in boredom. He was waiting for Lisa Schwan. More accurately, he was waiting for Lisa Schwan's new dishes. As there were not many customers in Drunken Immortal restaurant today, Lisa Schwan did not plan to go to the private room upstairs. When Lisa Schwan told manager Lou that he had brought a few new things to Drunken Immortal restaurant, he did not only refer to Gentle Fragrance and Drunken Immortal. He also wanted to teach Wang Eru a few new dishes to compete with Yunshi Restaurant's palace delicacies. Inside the kitchen of Drunken Immortal restaurant. Eru, do you have pork here? Lisa Schwan wanted to make some red braised pork first, but he remembered that in the transmigration novels he had read in his previous life, the pigs of the Tang Dynasty were not castrated and were extremely smelly. The pigs were seen by the nobles as cheap meat that only the commoners could eat. Lord Ju, of course we have pork. Wang Eru replied curiously. Lisa Schwan was a little surprised. Then go give me 4 pounds of pork belly. Yes, Lord Ju. A moment later, Wang Eru walked over with a large piece of pork belly. Lord Ju, do you think this is enough? Lisa Schwan nodded and leaned over to smell it curiously. He then frowned and muttered, There's no smell. This doesn't make sense. Wang Eru was dumbfounded. Lord Ju, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Nothing. Eru, was this pig castrated when it was alive? Lisa Schwan changed the topic. Wang Eru laughed foolishly. Hee, Lord Ju, this is a sow. Lisa Schwan was speechless. Then are all the boars sold in the East Market castrated? Lisa Schwan held back the words that were about to come out of his mouth and continued to ask. Wang Eru laughed and said, Hee, Lord Ju, look at what you're saying. Of course, they've all been castrated. If this boar wasn't castrated, how smelly would it be? Lisa Schwan slapped his head. Sure enough, the stories in those transmigration novels were all lies. Some authors were simply irresponsible. According to historical records, castrated pigs appeared as early as the Western Zhou dynasty. The Book of Change's Big Beast hexagram had a saying, the teeth of a castrated pig are auspicious. It meant that castrated pigs were no longer aggressive, and their teeth were not to be feared, so it was auspicious. The reason why pork had declined to become a cheap meat was due to specific historical reasons. After the fall of the Western Jin dynasty, a large number of nomads from the north went south. After more than 300 years of war, they first unified the Sui dynasty and then the Tang dynasty. Although the Li clan that founded the Tang dynasty was Han, they had already been heavily Hu. The royal family was like this, and so were the nobles and bureaucrats who could afford meat. The Hu naturally preferred to eat mutton, and pork gradually declined. It wasn't until the Northern Song dynasty, when Su Shi invented dompa pork, that pork became popular again. Since pork didn't have that kind of fishy smell, Lisa Schwan planned to make a few more famous pork dishes. He had been in the Tang dynasty for so long, but he had never eaten pork before. The Li clan was a wealthy clan, so of course, Mrs. Li wouldn't let her son eat pork. 2 hours later, Lisa Schwan looked at the 4 famous pork dishes in front of him. Red braised pork, red braised lion's head, dompa pork, and twice cooked pork. He nodded with satisfaction. The only thing lacking was that the Tang dynasty didn't have vermicelli, so he couldn't make pork stewed with vermicelli. Eru, I heard that Yunshi restaurant offered twice the price to poach you. Why didn't you leave? Lisa Schwan saw that Wang Eru was tired and sweating, so he asked casually. When Wang Eru heard this, his expression immediately became serious. He was no longer laughing and joking like before. He used his sleeve to wipe the sweat off his face and bowed his fat body seriously. Lord Ju, although I, Wang Eru, didn't study, I definitely can't do something ungrateful. In the past, I was just an ordinary cook. Lord Ju, you thought highly of me and taught me how to make gnawing chicken. Later on, shopkeeper Liu also increased my salary by a lot. My wife and children at home all have new clothes to wear. My mother also has meat to eat. All of this was brought to me by Lord Ju. If I were to do something ungrateful, would I, Wang Eru, still be human? Not only me, but there are so many chefs in Drunken Immortal restaurant. If one of them dares to betray Lord Ju, I, Wang Eru, will be the first to fight him to the death. Wang Eru became a little emotional as he spoke. Every word he said was powerful and resonant. Lisa Schwan was also a little touched by this simple man. He quickly patted Wang Eru on the shoulder to calm his emotions and said, "Don't worry about it. Eru, you're a good man. Don't worry. You won't suffer if you follow this Lord Ju. Your family's days will only get better and better." Wang Eru nodded heavily and said, "Lord Ju, Eru understands." Lisa Xuan brought a few servants and brought out the 4 pork dishes. Of course, there was also a pot of iced drunken immortal wine. This was something that Chung Chumo took from his house. According to him, how could there be no good wine in drunken immortal restaurant? "Little Xian, what meat is this? Why is it so fragrant?" Chung Chumo was like a shameless dog. He used his nose to sniff around the plate. Li Zixuan quickly pushed him away. He was afraid that this idiot's saliva would fall into the plate. If that happened, how could he eat? "This is all pork." "Choax, you don't eat pork, right?" "Ah, this is pork? How can pork be so fragrant?" Chung Chumo said in disbelief. "That's right, this is all pork. Our Lord Ju's eldest son definitely wouldn't eat this cheap meat, right?" Li Zixuan ridiculed. Chung Chumo immediately shouted, "Bullshit, I don't care what kind of meat this is. This is such fragrant meat. Even if it was rat meat, I would still eat it. F***CK. Will this bastard die if he doesn't spoil my appetite when eating?" Li Zixuan really wanted to kick him out. "Uncle Lu, come and try this meat and this wine. In 2 days, our drunken immortal restaurant will release this." Li Zixuan called out to shopkeeper Lu. Shopkeeper Lu was already drooling from the side. When he heard this, he immediately thanked him excitedly. "Thank you, young master." The 3 of them sat down. Shopkeeper Lu tactfully poured a cup of wine for Chung Chumo and himself. He knew that Li Zixuan didn't drink, so he didn't pour it. As soon as this drunken immortal was exposed to the air, an extremely rich wine fragrance immediately filled the entire hall on the first floor. The fragrance was so strong that it even overshadowed the dompa pork and other famous pork dishes on the table. The few diners sitting next to him were already craving after smelling the aroma of the pork when it was served. At this time, they smelled the rich aroma of the wine. They put down their chopsticks one by one and looked over, swallowing their saliva. They wanted to come over and ask for something to eat, but they all knew Li Zixuan. He was a Lord Ju. They really didn't dare to offend him, so they could only look on enviously from the side. The hall suddenly fell into a strange silence. At this time, the sound of the diners swallowing their saliva was particularly ear-piercing. Li Zixuan looked up and saw the desire and fear in the diner's eyes. Only then did he understand. He said to shopkeeper Lu, "Uncle Lu, there are still some dishes in the kitchen that haven't been filled. Go and ask someone to share some with these diners. Also, give each of them a cup of our wine. These are the most loyal customers of our drunken, immortal restaurant. This meal is my treat." Li Zixuan's words were very loud. The diners all heard it. When they came back to their senses, they all cupped their hands and thanked him. "Thank you, Lord Ju. We will definitely come to this drunken, immortal restaurant often in the future. Yes. We will definitely come here often in the future. Lord Ju is really generous." Chapter 112. Inside the drunken, immortal restaurant. Xiaoxian, this braised lion's head is really delicious. I didn't expect pork to be so delicious. This dompa meat is also delicious. But why is it called dompa meat? It's obviously pork. Ching Chumo's cheeks were puffed up. While eating, he was still blindly barking. Unlike shopkeeper Lu, who had been silently eating, Li Zixuan wondered if all the food on the table would be enough to fill shopkeeper Lu's fat belly. Cough, cough, this wine. Manager Lu was a little thirsty. He picked up the wine cup and poured it into his mouth, but he almost choked to death. After a long time, he sighed and said, "Young master, this wine is really too strong. I, old Lu, have been drinking wine for most of my life, but I have never drunk such a strong wine. It's really satisfying." Manager Lu is right. It's not an exaggeration to call this wine an immortal brew. This old man has tasted all kinds of wine in the world, but I have never drunk such a strong wine with such a unique taste. It's even better than Jianan Braised Spring. A customer in his 40s or 50s echoed with an intoxicated look. Brother Jihua is right. I thought Jianan Braised Spring was the best wine in Tang Dynasty, but I didn't expect that I was just a frog at the bottom of the well. Once this wine is released, I'm afraid all the wines in Tang Dynasty will be overshadowed. I just don't know the name of this wine. Another diner also voiced out. Li Zishuan stood up and said with a smile, "This wine is called Drunken Immortal. It's a very strong wine. There's also a milder wine called Gentle Softness." 2 days later, these two wines will be released together with these new dishes. At that time, I invite everyone to come and support us. Several customers quickly cupped their hands and said, of course, of course. If we don't drink this immortal brew to our heart's content, wouldn't we regret it for life? Yes." After eating and drinking to their heart's content, everyone left the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Those customers became the first batch of promoters of the new wine and dishes. Of course, Li Zishuan wouldn't just rely on these people to help him advertise. He still had other tricks up his sleeve. Chung Chumo ate until he was full and drank until he was full. This guy had learned to be smart. After eating and drinking, he did not plan to go home first. He wanted to go out and have some fun to disperse the smell of alcohol so that he would not be kicked when he went back. Li Zishuan couldn't be bothered with him, so he let him be. It just so happened that he still needed to bring this fellow along in the afternoon. He had people move the ingredients and equipment needed to concoct the Drunken Immortal and Gentle Fragrance to the Chung family's winery. This fellow was eating for free, so he should at least contribute a little, right? The next day, a group of children on first-generation scooters suddenly appeared in the streets and alleys of Chang and City. The children sang as they ran, Drunken Immortal, 2 liters are free if you're not drunk. Gentle Village, enjoy gentleness, drink at Drunken Immortal Restaurant. At this time, Li Zishuan racked his brains to come up with a rhyming advertising slogan. He instructed Sambao to find some children and let them ride on scooters to run around Chang and City while singing the 2 lines of the advertising slogan. As for the reward, it was the scooters they were riding. As long as they shouted for a day, the scooters would belong to them. With such a generous reward, the other children were envious, and they all fought to sign up for it. Li Zishuan didn't reject any of them. He took as many as he could. Of course, he could afford this advertising fee. In fact, it was very worthwhile. In the end, the advertising team reached more than 50 people. It directly caused the citizens of Chang and City to be bombarded with these 2 phrases for an entire day. Isn't this Drunken Immortal restaurant too arrogant? 2 liters of wine is free if you're not drunk. I, Xiao Luo, can drink 100 cups without getting drunk. Tomorrow, I'll go to Drunken Immortal restaurant to drink for free. Haha, I'll go too. It'll be a waste if I don't drink this free wine. Let's see how Drunken Immortal restaurant will clean up this mess. I just don't know how the wine tastes. I hope it's not too bad. Hee hee, you little brats are just fooling around. This wine is delicious, but it's very strong. You won't even be able to get up after 1 liter, let alone 2 liters. At this time, an old man in his 40s or 50s interrupted. It was the old man from Drunken Immortal restaurant yesterday. What's wrong, old man Foam? Have you tried Drunken Immortal before? The man with the surname Xiao asked. Old man Foam twirled his beard and said with a smile, I had the honor of drinking a cup at Drunken Immortal restaurant yesterday. TSK. This wine is much better than Jianan's spring braised wine. However, the alcohol is abnormally strong. You young people, don't crawl to the ground after drinking 2 cups. Haha. Old man Foam, don't underestimate me. I'll let you drink 2 liters of wine tomorrow. Wei Zheng had just finished the morning assembly. On his way back, he sat in the sedan chair and heard the children's voices outside. Drunken Immortal, 2 liters of wine are free if you don't get drunk. In the land of warmth, enjoy gentleness. Drink at Drunken Immortal restaurant. Wei Zheng loved brewing wine all his life, and he loved drinking even more. His alcohol tolerance was also extremely high. He wouldn't get drunk even after drinking 3 liters of Jianan's spring braised wine. This drunken immortal restaurant is actually so arrogant. The last time I impeached Lisa Schwan, I was actually rendered speechless by that sly brat. Since you dare to spout nonsense this time, this old man will go to drunken immortal restaurant tomorrow to drink for free. Haha. The same situation was happening in almost every corner of Chong and City. Those who thought that they could hold their liquor would naturally feel indignant after hearing these 2 lines of advertising. They had the intention to give it a try. If they didn't get drunk, wouldn't they have earned 2 liters of wine for free? Lisa Schwan was making use of the wishful thinking of most people to lure them to drunken immortal restaurant to try this drunken immortal. There was a gambler living in everyone's heart. As long as they were lured out by external conditions, they would be like a scourge that couldn't be stopped. Xin, you were the one who got someone to release those 2 lines of doggerel in Chong and City today, right? After dinner, Li Jingma called his son into the study and asked with a smile, Hee, I can't hide anything from father. That's exactly what this child wants. Lisa Schwan chuckled. Li Jingma asked doubtfully, Then aren't you afraid that someone will really drink 2 liters of wine and not get drunk? Father, we can't rule out such a person, but such people are extremely rare. If he really can't get drunk, what's wrong with giving him 2 liters of wine? After all, our drunken immortal restaurant's reputation would have already spread by then. That drunken immortal restaurant, was equivalent to a 40-degree white wine. If there really was someone who could drink 2 liters of wine and not get drunk, then he, Lisa Schwan, would admit defeat. Li Jingma shook his head helplessly. I just realized that you're better at doing business than me. You brat. Instead of being a noble, you just have to blindly do these things. Lisa Schwan smiled. Father, this is almost the last time I'll help drunken immortal restaurant. Once the new wine status is established, so will drunken immortal restaurants. At that time, we'll just have to stay at home and count the money. To tell the truth, Lisa Schwan himself didn't want to be so tired. It was all forced by the circumstances. Li Jingma was speechless. Chapter 113. On this day, before the door of Drunken Immortal opened, there was already a circle of people outside. Hey, Jiang Weiyun, are you here to drink the free wine? Haha, that's right, Brother Xiao. Wouldn't it be great to drink the free wine of Drunken Immortal and order 2 portions of their nibbled chicken? That makes sense. That makes sense. Brother, you're so thoughtful. Ha ha ha. After the crowd was lively for a while, the waiter of Drunken Immortal came out to open the door. Shopkeeper Lu also came out. He looked at the crowd in front of him and smiled like a Methriya Buddha. Dear customers, today the Drunken Immortal is releasing new wine and dishes. Anyone who can drink 2 liters of Drunken Immortal without getting drunk will be served free of charge. But in order to prevent people from forgetting to pay the bill after getting drunk, all customers will have to pay first before eating. If anyone can drink 2 liters of wine without getting drunk, we'll refund the money to you in full. Great! Everyone cheered loudly. The burly man surnamed Xiao couldn't help but shout. Shopkeeper Lu, open the door quickly. Old Xiao, I'm waiting to drink your wine for free, haha. That's right, we want to drink the free wine. These people treated the Drunken Immortals event as free wine for them. Shopkeeper Lu laughed in his heart. You'll be crying later. Shopkeeper Lu opened the door, and the diners outside immediately rushed into the restaurant in a single file. Shopkeeper Lu, you're serving a new dish? What's this dompa meat? What's this braised lion's head? Don't tell me you're selling lion's meat? Shopkeeper Lu was about to explain when he heard someone interrupt. Young man, if you're not buying, let this old man buy first. Waiter, give this old man a portion of braised lion's head, a portion of braised meat, and half a liter of Drunken Immortal. The speaker was the old man who talked to Lisa Schwan that day. His name was Feng Jihua, and he was also a rich businessman. That's right, if you're not ordering, let us order first. Another diner who had eaten the new dish and drank the new wine with Feng Jihua last time chimed in. These people were not lacking in money. They had said that they would come to support, and now they were all here. All right, sir, that's a total of $4,400. Please pay the bill first. The waiter said respectfully. Feng Jihua pointed at the waiter and said with a smile, "You're looking down on this old man. How could this old man get drunk with just half a liter of wine?" Despite saying that, Feng Jihua still took out a golden biscuit and handed it to the waiter. The surrounding people who didn't know what was going on gasped. Someone couldn't help but ask, "Waiter, this person only ordered so little and he wants 5 strings of cash?" The waiter didn't show the slightest bit of impatience. While receiving the golden biscuit from Feng Jihua, he politely explained to the rest. Replying to the esteemed guest, "Our store's God's nectar is 1 liter for 5 strings of bones. Twice-cooked pork, braised lion's head and soy sauce, dompa pork, and braised pork and soy sauce are all priced at the same price. 5 strings of cash per liter?" The rest of the people were frightened by the high price, and some of the people who wanted to come to the drunken immortal restaurant to take a gamble began to retreat. "Waiter, just give me a portion of gnawed chicken." However, there were also people who were extremely confident in their drinking capacity. They thought that no matter how expensive the wine was, as long as they didn't get drunk, they would still return the money. Thus, 7 or 8 big men began to shout, "Waiter, give me 2 liters of immortal drunken wine and a portion of gnawed chicken. Waiter, give me 2 liters of immortal drunken wine and 2 portions of gnawed chicken." There were more people who ordered the gnawed chicken than the new dishes. After all, everyone hadn't eaten those new dishes yet. When Feng Jihua's dishes were served, the rest of the people realized that they were wrong. "Phew, it smells so good. Yeah, what kind of meat is this braised lion's head? Why can't I tell from the outside? Goo goo, I can't stand it anymore. Waiter, give me a portion of braised lion's head. Give me another portion of braised pork. I want a portion of dompa pork." At this time, the number of diners who ordered pork gradually increased. Half an hour later, almost all the diners' dishes and wine were on the table. "Oh, this braised lion's head is so delicious. What kind of meat is this? Why does it taste like pork? It can't be. How can pork taste so good? Hiss, hurry up and try this immortal drunken wine. It's so cold and strong." Shopkeeper Lu wasn't bragging. "This wine is so strong. I've never tasted such strong wine in all my travels. Not only that, it even has the taste of mountain fruits. This is too strange. It's even better than Jiannan's spring braised wine." A burly man with a full beard took a sip of the wine and suddenly exclaimed, "Hiss, cough, cough. This immortal drunken wine is really strong. This name is really apartment. If a deity were to drink this, he would probably be drunk as well. However, this shopkeeper is quite generous. He added ice cubes in such a hot day. Otherwise, drinking such strong wine would really burn people to death. Yeah, this shopkeeper sure is extravagant. This wine is 5 strings of coins per liter. It's not that expensive. Holy shit, what a strong wine. It's even stronger than Jiannan's spring braised wine. Looks like I, old Xiao, will have to hand over my 200 gene of meat to this drunken immortal inn." The burly man with the surname Xiao said with a tragic expression. He just took a sip and knew that it was impossible for him to drink 2 liters without getting drunk. "Haha, Xiao Qi Xiong, didn't you just say that you can do it?" "Huh." A middle-aged man in his 30s laughed. "Meow Lauer, don't just laugh at me. Didn't you also order 2 liters of wine? If you have the guts, don't get drunk after drinking it." "Haha, I don't plan to finish it. I'll take the rest home and slowly drink it. It's a pity that I don't take this wine home and slowly taste it." Xiao Qi slapped his head and said, "Yeah, I'll take it home and slowly drink it." He knew that he would get drunk if he drank too much and was destined to lose this bet. Why would he drink it all at once? He might as well take it home and slowly taste it. After all, this wine was 5 strings of coins per liter. It wasn't cheap. Many of them felt that this was a good idea and secretly planned to do it. But these people were too perfect. Good wine was like opium. Once you drink it, you will get addicted. How could you stop? Half an hour later. Why is this wine cup moving? Oh, don't pull me. I'm not drunk. Help me up. I want to drink more. Ugh, who hit me? I'll hit your mother. When Wei Zheng finished the morning court, it was close to noon. He remembered that he was going to the drunken immortal restaurant to drink free wine today. So he quickly asked the old servant to drive the carriage to the drunken immortal restaurant. Outside the drunken immortal restaurant, there were still 2 lines of doggerel hanging on the door. Drunken immortal, 2 liters are free if you don't get drunk. In a land of tenderness, enjoy tenderness. Drink at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Wei Zheng smiled disdainfully and walked into the Drunken Immortal restaurant with his hands behind his back. As soon as he came in, he saw a floor full of drunkards. Wei Zheng immediately understood that this group of people probably came with the same idea as him to drink free wine. It was just that their skills were a little worse. Wei Zheng looked at the floor full of useless people, and his heart was filled with pride. He thought, young people nowadays really have no fighting power. Today, this old man will let you all see what is called an immortal in wine. Waiter, give me 2 liters of Drunken Immortal and a portion of nibbled chicken. Wei Zheng shouted heroically. Okay, this guest, please pay first. It's a total of 10 strings of coins. Why does your restaurant have to pay first today? What? You said a total of 10 strings of coins. Wei Zheng stamped his feet and said, Yes, guest. Today, our Drunken Immortal restaurant is having a promotion. Those who can drink 2 liters of Drunken Immortal without getting drunk can get a refund. In order to prevent some people from forgetting to pay the bill when they get drunk, we have to pay first. Our Drunken Immortal costs 5 strings of coins per liter. Do you still need it? Wei Zheng instantly lost his pride. This was 11 strings of coins, which was almost equivalent to his monthly salary. However, Wei Zheng had brewed wine his whole life. He really wanted to see what this wine that cost 5 strings of coins per liter looked like. If it didn't live up to its name and was still so expensive, then he would find trouble with Lisa Xuan. Wei Zheng gritted his teeth and took out a gold biscuit and said, Here, quickly bring me the wine and dishes. He secretly said to himself, I can't get drunk. If I get drunk, this month's salary will be gone, and I will be scolded when I go home. Chapter 114. Inside the Drunken Immortal Inn. The waiter served Wei Zheng 2 pots of wine and a portion of chicken before retreating. Wei Zheng looked at the dishes that cost him a month's worth of his salary and swallowed his saliva guiltily. He wasn't like the other officials who had other sources of income other than the salary from the royal court. This was his first time spending so much money on a meal. As long as he didn't get drunk, he would be able to earn 10 strings of coins. Wei Zheng lifted the wine pot and poured himself a cup of wine. The Drunken Immortal had a bright red color and was exceptionally alluring. There was even a slight chill on the surface of the cup. This Drunken Immortal, ensure, is extravagant. They even added ice. Wei Zheng couldn't help but mutter to himself. One must know that in ancient times, in order to prevent the ice from melting, one had to dig 5 to 10 meters deep. Furthermore, the scale was usually relatively large, costing tens of millions. Generally speaking, only the royal family and wealthy clans could afford it. After sighing for a moment, Wei Zheng lifted the cup and took a light sniff. In an instant, a rich aroma of wine and fruits assaulted his nose. He couldn't help but close his eyes and immerse himself in the intoxicating aroma. Good wine. There's the aroma of Jiannan roasted spring in it. However, the aroma is even richer than that of Jiannan roasted spring. Coupled with the fragrance of the fruits, the two actually don't clash at all. The person who mixed the wine has a perfect grasp of the situation. He could be considered a master wine mixer. One could tell whether an expert was a master the moment he spoke. It had to be said that Wei Zheng's research in winemaking had already reached the level of a master. With just a light sniff, he was able to determine the composition of the wine. Such a sweet wine in the world. To be able to drink such a divine wine in my lifetime, my life has truly not been in vain. As an old drunkard, what else could attract him more than fine wine? At this moment, Wei Zheng had already forgotten the purpose of his visit and was completely immersed in the Drunken Immortal Inn. Wei Zheng drank 1 cup after another while gnawing on the chicken. After a while, the bottle of Drunken Immortal was emptied. It had to be said that Wei Zheng's alcohol tolerance was really good. After drinking more than a caddy of Drunken Immortal, he actually didn't collapse. It should be known that the alcohol content of ancient times was generally lower. Generally, those who were used to drinking low alcohol would collapse within 4 or 5 glasses of strong alcohol, like the immortal drunken wine. It was rare to see someone like Wei Zheng who could persist until now. Even though Wei Zheng hadn't collapsed yet, his consciousness was a little blurry at the moment, and his face was a little red. Looking at him like this, he was probably not far from being drunk. "Master, let's not drink anymore. You've already drunk too much. When we return, Madam will blame me again." The coachman who came with Wei Zheng saw that Wei Zheng had drunk a little too much, so he quickly mustered up his courage and went forward to persuade him. Wei Zheng squinted his eyes and waved his hand unsteadily. This old man didn't drink too much. Quickly withdraw for this old man. With that, he lifted another jug of wine with his trembling right hand and continued to pour wine for himself. It was inevitable that a lot of wine would spill out in the process. The coachman was so anxious that his face turned red. He wanted to persuade Wei Zheng, but he didn't dare to. He could only come over and help Wei Zheng pour the wine. When the surrounding diners saw Wei Zheng like this, they secretly shook their heads. They thought that this was another challenger who didn't know his own strength. Before he drank half of the second jug of wine, Wei Zheng finally couldn't drink anymore. He looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. "Good wine." Then he fell to the ground with a thud. The servant who drove the carriage quickly went forward to help him up. Master, are you okay? I'll send you home." As he spoke, he was about to pull Wei Zheng to the carriage outside. Unexpectedly, Wei Zheng suddenly straightened his body, opened his eyes, and shouted, "Bring me more wine. This old man can still drink." The servant was about to cry. He quickly said, "Master, there's no more wine. Let's go home quickly. Madam is waiting anxiously." Wei Zheng ignored him and suddenly pushed the servant away with his arm. He shouted, "Get out of the way, Lai Fu. How dare you not listen to this old man today? Burp it. This is—" At this time, he suddenly staggered 2 steps and walked in front of a diner. He stretched his head forward, and his eyes were almost touching the diner's face. The diner was shocked and quickly said, "Brother, what can I do for you?" Wei Zheng laughed twice and pointed at the diner. "Brother Fong, are you Brother Fong? I remember that I, old Wei, still owe you money. Burp, Lai Fu, quickly go and pay Brother Fong back." The diner quickly waved his hand and said, No, brother, you've got the wrong person. My surname is Wong, not Fong. You don't owe me money." "Who said that? How could I get the wrong person?" "Burp, Lai Fu, did you hear that? Quickly bring the money." Wei Zheng patted the diner's shoulder and laughed incoherently. Lai Fu anxiously said, "Master, you've really got the wrong person. This is not Fong Xiang." Today, he had already spent 10 yuan in the drunken immortal restaurant. If Lai Fu took out more money, he would probably be skinned by his wife when he returned. Wei Zheng was instantly angry. He grabbed Lai Fu and snatched the money bag at his waist. He took out a handful of money and handed it to the diner, saying, "The servant at home is not sensible. Brother Fong, please don't blame him. Burp, quickly take it." "Brother, I really can't take this money. You got the wrong person." Wei Zheng shouted loudly, "If I tell you to take it, then take it. Burp, if you don't take it, then you don't give me Wei Xuanqing face. Burp, am I, Wei Xuanqing, a villain who owes money and doesn't pay it back?" As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Wei Xuanqing? This person is actually the Left Prime Minister Wei Zheng? Yes, I didn't expect Left Prime Minister Wei to get drunk. Isn't he known as the person with the highest alcohol tolerance in Great Tang? This Left Prime Minister Wei actually likes to give people money when he's drunk? It's really rare, isn't it? It's the first time I've seen someone take the initiative to give money. It would have been better if Wei Zheng didn't say it. Once he said it, the diner was even more afraid to take his money. People didn't fight with officials. At this time, if there was money to let Wei Zheng leave, the diner would definitely take out 2 big gold pancakes without hesitation. Wei Zheng was entangled with the diner for a long time. Finally, he was a little impatient. He directly stuffed the gold pancake into the diner's arms and muttered, "Brother Fong is really not straightforward." Then he proudly went to another diner and asked, "Brother, it's you? Do I still owe you 5 strings of money? Lai Fu, quickly give me the money. Lai Fu didn't have 5 strings of money on him. At this moment, he wanted to cry. He really wanted to faint from happiness. He felt that if he continued to be like this, he would definitely be driven crazy by Wei Zheng. In the end, shopkeeper Liu couldn't stand it anymore. He called 2 servants to help Lai Fu forcibly carry Wei Zheng into the carriage. After this farce, he finally became a laughingstock. He was afraid that when Wei Zheng woke up tomorrow, he would find that he was already famous in Chang'an. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.